Bro, this story is peak. This world is crazy. The gender roles are reversed. The women are the strong ones. They do the chasing, they throw the punches, they run everything. And the guys? They wear makeup, stay home, and get fought over. Now, our boy gets randomly dropped into this world, and he's just as confused as you are. One day, he's a 31-year-old office worker. The next, he wakes up 19 again, in the body of the prettiest boy you've ever seen, and every dangerous woman in the city starts deciding he's hers. And the action is real. 5 gang girls corner him in an antique shop. He ducks the first swing, puts the second one through a display case, catches a chair leg mid-air, and drops the last one with it without spilling his tea. And you know how every harem has that one rich older woman. This one runs a billion-dollar company. She could buy his whole school before lunch, Sloan Mar. She hides all of it under a business suit, 99% of the time. But sometimes we get a glimpse of paradise. Just believe in iron. I don't do bait when a story's this good. Drop a like, and let's get into it. Cade Mercer is 31 years old and walking home from a job he hates. It is a Tuesday. The sky over Calder City goes wrong on him. A black disk sitting where the sun should be, rimmed with white light, hanging over a city that suddenly has nobody in it, no cars, no people, just that hole in the daylight. Then he wakes up. Different bed, different room, and this room has plush toys on the shelf. He is 19. He is slim. He is prettier than he has ever been in his life, and every memory he owns is still filed exactly where he left it. He checks his own hands twice, soft hands. Then somebody starts hammering on the door. It's his father. Errol Mercer wants to know why he isn't up yet, reminds him about the shopping trip with his friend, mentions that they are having dinner with Delia, and finishes with an instruction to get that friend to teach him some makeup, because a boy should take care of himself. He says it the way you'd ask about laundry. Our guy lies there doing absolutely nothing with the word makeup. Then his phone rings, and somebody outside starts yelling at him to open up. He assumes it's Milo, his drinking buddy from the old world, a big guy with tattoos down both arms who invites you out for beer at 11 on a work night. So, the protagonist pulls on the nearest clothes and opens the door. The blonde boy on the step is wearing a cardigan the color of dessert. Not cool, making a handsome guy wait out here where a girl with bad intentions could get him. This is Milo Park. Same name. Nothing else the same. Errol comes into the hall, grabs Milo by both shoulders, and tells his son to learn how to dress from this boy. Milo thanks him for it. Errol keeps going and informs Cade that his skin is far too dry and he needs to take skincare seriously. Milo agrees with him enthusiastically. Cade stands there holding the door and thinks, "What world did I get shipped to?" That is when the memories arrive. They come in like a file transfer, and they belong to the boy who used to own this body. In this world, the gender roles are flipped, and they always have been. Every empire in recorded history was led by women. Men stayed home with the children. Women are biologically stronger, with more stamina and more raw power. And here, that is not politics, it is biology class. The whole download lasts about 6 seconds. When it's over, he is still standing in a hallway in a cardigan house, and the only thought this guy can produce is that he'd like to know how he got into this mess. Sometime later, they are walking through the city, and Milo is planning their day. Nails first, face masks after. He asks whether Cade has pepper spray on him, because social media says the female gangs downtown are getting unruly again. Cade tells him to drop the cute stuff, drags him into a tattoo studio, and asks for a dragon. The artist looks up. Tattoos are a girl's thing. Don't get one unless you're a bad boy. So, the kid takes his shirt off. What happens next is the trope, and, I'm just going to name it, the reverse nosebleed. 4 women go down at once, and one offers to throw money if he keeps going. Milo hauls him out by the belt loop, hissing that he is being indecent in public. He gets 0 tattoos. He gets home worse off than he left. And that is the exact moment he meets his stepsister. He opens the wrong door, sees Juno Reyes standing in the middle of her own bedroom, and reverses straight back into the corridor without a single word. At dinner, his father drops the rest of it. Delia and her daughter are moving in, because this house is bigger, because he is getting married again. Cade eats his food and says nothing. Juno does not stop looking at him for the entire meal. Back in his room, the protagonist takes stock of the body he got stuck with. It is never exercised once, and it cannot lift anything heavier than a school bag. He throws a teddy bear at the wall, on principle. Then Juno comes in, without knocking, and puts him on the bed. She does it in one motion, no hesitation or buildup, and asks whether he missed her while she was away. He tells her she's drunk. She is not drunk. She notices how red his face has gone. Sits back a little. "Let me check you for a fever." There is nothing in her voice that sounds like a joke. He tells her he's fine, and he says it 4 times. Later that night, somebody tells him to wake up, and it is not Juno. There is a woman standing in his room who was never in this house, and the second Cade opens his eyes, he feels it. The same pressure as that afternoon under the black disc. She takes his chin in her hand and tells him she is the entity that brought him here, the Lady of the Black Sun. He asks what he ever did to her. She calls his prayers pathetic and reminds him, in detail, that he used to complain about the odds of dying a virgin. He asks her to send him home. There is not one normal girl in this entire world, he says, and he would like a refund. Then she calls him an ungrateful human and offers him a deal instead. Back on Earth, he was always ranting about becoming a real man. Real men lift, that was his line. He said it constantly and loudly. So, that is the task. Become a real man in this world, and you might find a door home. Fail, and you assimilate. He asks whether assimilate means he turns into one of these boys. Maybe, she says. Would that really be so bad? And she's gone, telling him to give the world a chance. He lies awake most of the night doing math on the word maybe. Next morning, he wakes up hoping it was a dream, looks at the room, and confirms it was not. He catches himself in the mirror and stalls out for a second. His own verdict, out loud, is that he looks way too pretty for a dude. So the kid does research. He reads 2 days of newspapers. A college boy is being sued for refusing to marry a rich rancher's daughter. Another boy is doing 20 years for murdering his wife. Even the crime pages are inverted here, which brings him to the only real theory he has. Forget the sunless lady and her task for a minute. If he can work out exactly what happened the night the black sun appeared, he can make it happen again, on purpose, on his own schedule. That is a research problem. Research costs money, access, and people who return your calls. And Cade Mercer is a broke high schooler in a borrowed body. So, the actual obstacle is not the goddess. It's the money. He writes that part down. The next morning, he goes to school for the first time. Milo meets him at the corner and immediately shows off a new lipstick, asking whether the color is great. Cade tells him to knock it off. Milo is genuinely offended, because they used to do this all the time, and clearly Cade has changed. So the protagonist gives him the truth. He has a different concept of what a real man is, and he intends to become a full Chad. Milo goes pale and warns him that nobody will want to marry him like that. Then, Milo grabs his arm a second later, because there is a rough-looking girl across the street watching them. Cade says she's harmless and offers to smack her himself in the name of gender equality. Milo is sweating through the cardigan. Cade grabs him and breaks into a run to prove a point, and gets about 40 meters before this body quits on him. He used to box. This chest cannot do stairs. They arrive at Kingsley Academy, which his suddenly wealthy family pays for. Private, expensive, and full of girls who are all, quietly, stronger than he is. Then he walks into his classroom and sees a boy hand a girl a bottle of water and ask her to open it for him. She calls him cutie and tells him it's a piece of cake. Cade lifts the bottle off the desk because he refuses to believe this. He grips the cap, braces the bottle against his stomach, and turns. Nothing moves. He tries again with both hands, shoulders in it now, face going red, and by the fourth attempt, the entire class has gone quiet to watch a boy fight a beverage. His hand is hurting now, so he gives up. The girl takes it back and opens it one-handed without looking down. Then 8 girls end up around his desk offering to open things for him, and one is already holding out her own bottle to demonstrate. Cade sits at his desk and stares at the wall and tells himself he is a failure who cannot open water. Milo pats his shoulder and tells everyone he has been acting strange lately, so don't mind him. Emotional damage. Out in the corridor it gets worse, because in the corridor he can hear them. One girl says his skin is unreal, like porcelain. Another says his backside should be illegal, and she wants to squeeze it. A third calls him dreamy, and nobody in the group argues. Cade keeps walking with his eyes forward and thinks, so that is what harassment feels like from the other side. And then he has the useful thought. He needs to get stronger, and he needs somewhere to train. On his phone, he looks up beginner Muay Thai classes. Muscle alone won't do it either, he decides, because being a real man is a state of mind. Then a voice, right behind his ear, asks who he's texting. Piper Nash has appeared at his shoulder out of nowhere. Cade asks if she is some kind of ninja. She says she has been calling his name for 10 seconds. She is much too close, much too fast, and she wants to know whether he is talking to another girl, because he wouldn't do that, right? The kid backs up and announces that he is a traditional guy and men and women should not be standing this close in public. She takes his hand anyway. She turns it over, tells him his hands are unbelievably soft, and offers to massage them properly because he clearly has not been sleeping. Cade pushes against her arm to get free. Her arm does not move, not an inch. He is pushing with everything this body has, while a girl from his class holds his wrist one-handed and compliments his skin. and that is the second time today that a law of physics has personally insulted him. The teacher walks in and saves him. Later in the corridor, another girl steps into his path, tells him she has liked him since the day they met, and asks him out on the spot. He says he isn't looking for a relationship, on the grounds that his mental health is deteriorating. He walks off down the corridor. Milo, jealous, complains that Cade got 20 confessions today and he got none. At lunch, the protagonist notices the plates. Every boy in this cafeteria is eating leaves. Milo orders salad and fried vegetables, no rice, and explains that guys have to eat like that or they get fat. Cade tells him he will faint by third period. Milo says he's cutting. So our guy stands in line doing arithmetic on a world where men are told to eat less than the people who are twice as strong. He makes a list right there. Step 1. Exercise. Step 2. Get Milo to coach him. Step 3. Burn every flirty item in that wardrobe. Step 4. Be a Chad instead of a pretty boy. Then he goes to the counter and orders pork, rice, steak, and a large portion of everything else on the board. Milo asks if he is trying to get fat. A real man eats before he trains, Cade says. The whole cafeteria watches him carry that tray. Somebody says he's showing off. Bryce Nolan shows up before he can sit down. Bryce takes one look at the tray. Why do you eat like a desperate foreigner doing hard labor? Cade, chewing, asks who this is. Bryce is insulted because they have studied together for 2 years, or has the weight gone to his brain? So the protagonist puts his fork down and calmly explains that first Bryce insulted migrant workers, and then he insulted fat people, which makes him classist, racist, and fatphobic, all in about 9 seconds. Bryce Nolan bursts into tears, and the entire room turns on Cade. Girls are asking why he made that poor boy cry, saying it was completely unnecessary, saying he is obviously manipulating everyone. Public opinion flips in 1 second flat, which is where the kid learns that in this world, he is not the one who gets believed. Then, a girl stands up 2 tables over. Nell Ito says how much Cade eats is Cade's business. Boys aren't allowed to eat now? That's discrimination against your own gender. The mood swings straight back. She asks him, gently, whether he is extra hungry today, and offers him the food off her own tray. Cade is momentarily derailed, and the honest thought going through his head is that she is really pretty. Bryce starts yelling both their names at once. Cade cuts him off. If you've got something to say, say it. If not, shut up and let your grandpa eat. Milo, confused, asks why he is calling himself a grandpa. Nell decides she likes it and says it's attractive, kind of like a wild kitty. Bryce storms off, telling all of them they are awful people. Then Nell turns to Milo and asks about a game she recommended him, League of Legends, and whether he ever tried it. Milo says no, the game is too difficult, and boys are not really suited to that kind of thing. He suggests she try Candy Crush instead. Cade, mouth full, asks whether she means the 5v5 MOBA. The table stops. Milo is stunned, because this guy has spent years insisting games are for girls. Cade asks why only girls play games here and gets no logic back at all. Nell says that isn't strictly true. There are boys who play. They're just nowhere near the top of the ladder. She asks whether he wants to duo sometime. Cade stands up with his tray. I usually play support or jungle. He tells Milo they're leaving and straight up walks out of the cafeteria. Behind him, Nell Ito is melting into the table, asking nobody in particular when Cade Mercer is ever going to accept her. Back in the classroom, the protagonist has a question, and it isn't about girls. There is one student sitting alone at the window with a book. Nobody has gone near her all day. Cade asks who she is. Milo says her name is Astrid, a transfer student. Then he immediately wants to know whether Cade is interested in her, because Milo has one setting. Cade says she's pretty, but she doesn't talk to anybody, so who knows? Then he grabs Milo by the arm and tells him to go say hello. Milo nearly falls over, because in this world the girl makes the first move. A boy walking up to a girl on his own isn't shy here. It's improper, and Milo would rather die. Cade tells him that's the old way, and men take the lead now. He has been in this world 4 days. Obviously, he is an expert. So, he does it himself. He walks over, introduces both of them, notices the book, and asks what she's reading. Milo whispers at his back that she doesn't want to talk to them. Astrid says she doesn't have an opinion about that. The kid puts his hand out anyway. If you ever want to talk to somebody, let's be friends. She looks at the hand for a second. Then she says okay. That is the entire event. A boy walked up to a girl, and the building did not collapse. The kid walks back to his desk like a man who has moved a mountain. Piper Nash arrives about 4 seconds later, wanting to know why they were bothering the new girl. He turns straight around and asks Astrid whether she wants to be friends with Piper too. Astrid says yes. Piper, who came over to complain, ends up thanking him. Back at his desk, he chews on what a real man in this world actually is. Back in his room that evening, he's got music on, the very serious kind about not needing anybody. Juno is in the doorway. He does not hear her arrive. She asks what he's doing in here. He says, listening to music, and she crosses the room instead of leaving. Can I listen too? She takes one earbud. She says he likes rock now. That is not what other boys listen to, and different isn't a bad thing. She says it about 2 inches from his face. There is an argument happening inside Cade's skull between two versions of himself. One says, a real man endures. The other says, a real man does not run from a girl in his own bedroom. Neither one is helpful, and the body he's living in has already started sweating. So, he panics. He takes her by both shoulders and puts her on the bed. She lands and looks up at him, not startled or offended, just mildly interested. Did you want a hug? And that is when the memory arrives, and it does not belong to him. It comes in like the download in the hallway did, except it's 4 seconds long, and it's a voice. You're mine. Wherever you go, I'll find you. He knows the voice. He is looking at the person it belongs to right now. Cade steps back off the bed fast. She is on her feet before he finishes the step, both hands on his shoulders. She wants to know whether he's sick because he's gone pale, and she checks his forehead. She is being incredibly kind about it, and that is somehow the part that stays with him. He says he needs sleep. Then she asks, on the way out, whether she'd look better with her hair shorter. He says she looks good either way, because it's the fastest exit available. The door closes, and our guy lies there reaching his conclusion for the evening. His goddess is weird, and his sister is weird. He clearly has to fix his own situation before either of them makes it worse. The next day he goes to a salon. The attendant greets him at the door. You're beautiful already. Let me put the best stylist in the shop on a face like that. Kate says he just needs a haircut, and it doesn't matter who does it. The stylist comes out, asks what he wants, and gets an answer she has never had before. Short. It doesn't have to look good. She stands there working on that for a while. So she decides she's cracked it. He obviously wants the opposite of what he said. Boys always do. And this one is being sly about it. I'll make you even more handsome. 20 minutes later, she spins the chair. It is short, and he is also cuter than when he sat down, by a lot. The protagonist sits there staring at a mirror, trying to work out how a haircut can lose. Then she says, there's no charge. She just wants a photo of him for the salon's promo wall. Cade declines the deal and pays full price in cash. He is broke, and he does it anyway. He is not putting his face on a wall in this world. At home, his father sees the hair and starts shouting. Why would you cut it? Was it fun? Are you trying to upset me? Juno steps between them and tells Errol to take it easy. There's nothing wrong with it, she says, and he looks cuter this way. Errol folds instantly. Then she asks Cade to come to her room, because she has a present. He goes in braced for something, and it's a normal room. She takes a small box off the desk and hands it over, saying she bought it in a hurry and hopes he likes it. Earrings. Black diamond. This guy knows what things cost. He looks at them and does the silent arithmetic. The number he lands on is more than his father makes in a month. He tries to say it's too much, and she waves it off. As long as you like them, I'll buy you anything. The kid goes back to his own room, sits on the bed, and holds a pair of black diamond earrings up to the light. The honest thought going through his head is that he can't tell whether he got a stepsister or a sugar mama. He decides to keep them because he is 19, broke, and in a body that owns nothing but cardigans. Then his phone buzzes, and it's Milo, and Milo has news. He has signed a web novel contract. The title is, My Boss Bought Me Dinner. The pitch is soft. Cute friend boy versus sassy, CO, boss lady, forbidden love. And Milo is extremely proud of it. Cade reads the blurb twice. So, he sits up. Because he remembers every novel he ever read on Earth, and not one of them exists here. A few hours later, he has stitched 4 of them together into something new and posted the first chapters under the title, A Woman's Place. 2 days after that, the platform emails him. It passed the signing review. He has an income. He celebrates by walking to the corner shop for ice cream, which is where the past ambushes him. He knows this shop from the old world, where it belonged to a neighbor. The neighbor had a daughter named Dara, and this guy spent a year working up to telling her he liked her. She turned him down in one sentence. She liked men with muscles. That is the whole reason he ever set foot in a gym, and he has never once admitted that out loud. He walks in with a new face this time, feeling good about his odds. Dara is behind the counter. Dara is now built like a door. She has arms on her that would end most arguments before they start. Cade Mercer takes one look, loses all structural integrity, and goes down on the floor of a corner shop. She rushes over to help him up, grabs his shoulder, and breaks the chair he's holding onto. Not on purpose. That's just her hand. He is out of that shop in about 9 seconds, refusing her phone number on the way, and he does the math on the street outside. Even the petite girl is a tank now. He needs a gym, a Muay Thai class, gifts for his sister, and a whole new wardrobe. Every single one of those things is money. Gender roles flipped, and the bill did not. Back home, he opens the door and finds Juno doing yoga in the living room. He asks why, and she says she wanted to try a bit of what boys used to do. Cade files that one away for later. She looks at him over her shoulder and tells him, gently, that he needs to get stronger so people stop pushing him around at school. She means it kindly, which makes it so much worse. In her eyes, he is the fragile one in this house. So, the protagonist challenges his stepsister to arm wrestling. Loser owes the winner one thing, no arguing. They set up at the kitchen table. He tells himself this is not a contest, it's about dignity, and he pulls on the accumulated strength of every male ancestor he has. Juno straight up stops the match early, and not because she's tired. Let's be real, it was never close. She can feel his wrist about to go, and she doesn't want him hurt. He asks what she wants as her prize. She thinks about it. I want to try a lap pillow. Kate assumes she means he gets one, which would be fine. She lies down across his lap instead. He sits very still on a kitchen chair with his hands in the air, like a man being searched at an airport, for about 20 minutes. A few days pass, and Piper calls about the amusement park. Zero Nova is coming. Milo is coming. Milo's sister is coming. Cade doesn't want to go. Milo tells him he needs friends in this world and drags him out the door. Milo's older sister takes a photo of him at the gate, telling him he looks beautiful today. He barely notices, and nobody else does either. Remember that one. They vote for the haunted house first. Milo is trembling before they get in the queue. Cade tells him to be a man about it, which, in this world, is a genuinely confusing sentence. Then the group pairs off. Piper goes with Milo and his sister, which leaves the protagonist with the quiet one. Zero Nova says almost nothing in the dark. He asks if she's scared. No answer. So he tells her she can hold on to him, and a small hand closes on his sleeve immediately. Then a skeleton drops out of the ceiling, and Cade tells it he's in a hurry. 2 rooms later, the sleeve is suddenly empty. He turns around, and Zero is gone. He starts back through the whole attraction calling her name, past the plastic corpses, past the strobing lights, until he hears something from a cabinet against the wall. He opens it, and she is folded up inside with her hands over her face, crying, and she has been in there long enough that she isn't making noise about it anymore. Don't be scared. I've got you. She takes his hand. He walks her out of the dark, slowly, all the way to the exit. Outside, Piper starts teasing about how long the 2 of them were in there together. The kid flicks her forehead. Then Zero, who has been standing quietly the whole time, collapses. The teasing stops. Everyone panics at once. Milo, helpful as ever, suggests mouth to mouth, and Piper wants an ambulance. Cade tells them both to relax, says she fainted from fright, and sends Milo for water. Then he lays her head in his lap on a bench and rubs her ears until she comes around. She wakes up confused, admits she was scared, and he tells her to maybe skip haunted houses in future. She closes her eyes and goes back to sleep on him. Quietest girl in this world, he thinks. Definitely the strangest one so far. Later they walk her home, and home turns out to be a villa. Maids meet them at the door. An elderly butler comes down the steps, scolding Zero for sneaking out so far without telling anybody. This is Ambrose. 2 seconds later, he registers that these are her friends and switches to hospitality so fast, it's frightening. Tea. Imported spring water. Pastries from a chef they keep on staff. Milo is holding a bottle of water that costs more than his shoes. Nobody in this group knew Zero Nova had money. While she's upstairs changing, the house does the talking. Then she comes down in different clothes, more expensive ones, and she is objectively the best-dressed person in the room, and looks like something switched off behind her eyes. She'd asked Ambrose one question on the way in. Did my dad call? He said no. He said her father is busy abroad and that he'll come home with gifts, and that her mother is busy too. She didn't argue. That's the part that gets you. She didn't argue. She just went upstairs bright and came back down empty. Cade asks her, what's wrong? She says, her dad didn't call again. He has no idea what to do with that, so he lets her talk, and it comes out flat and practiced. My mother is the mayor. My father is always somewhere else. Everyone says they love her. Ambrose says it too, and she has decided she isn't sure whether to believe him. So the protagonist gives her the only thing he's got. If you're ever lonely, come find me. Zero Nova lights up, like a switch, flipped the other way. She grabs his hand and pulls him down a corridor. Cade follows the quietest girl in his year into what turns out to be the family arsenal. Rifles on the wall. Racks of them. This family has a room for this. She picks out a handgun, her favorite one, and presses it into his hands as a friendship present. Cade calculates what happens if he walks into the Mercer house holding that. He politely explains that friends don't actually need to exchange firearms, and she insists anyway, which is kind of a lot for a friendship present. It's her most precious thing. The housekeeper told her friends, give each other presents, and she wants to be friends for life. Then she hugs him and announces they have to be together forever. Okay. She moves fast. The next weekend is a shopping trip, and the shopping trip is where the story turns. Milo drags him around every store in Calder City looking at soft pastel outfits, while Cade hunts for anything that reads as an adult man. They end up at a burger place afterwards. Cade has the feeling of being watched the entire meal, which he puts down to nerves. He is not nervous, and there is a girl 3 tables over with her phone up. Little handsome boy at the burger place. I want to take him home. Heart eyes emoji. 40 seconds, one post, no face blur. Milo asks why he's suddenly wearing a hat. Cade says he's too handsome and needs to keep a low profile, as a joke. Milo laughs and tells him to be careful or he'll end up an internet celebrity. By that night, Cade Mercer is a top 5 trending topic. Of course, the comments are a wall. This porcelain boy can't be a real person. He looks better than actual celebrities. Somebody find out everything about this beautiful boy. And then one commenter does the work. She links the burger photo to a post from a few weeks back. Milo's older sister at the amusement park, captioned as the day she went out with a god. Same face. Same boy. She has a name now, and a school, and a route home. She just doesn't know it yet. Meanwhile, the trending boy himself is lying on his bed with his arm over his eyes, exhausted by strangers. He checks the list once. Top 4. He tells himself it'll blow over in a few days, which is the single most incorrect thought he has all month. Then he opens VoltStream to watch something and gets hit by the world again. The just chatting category is all boys. Pretty boys, talking, thousands of viewers each. He switches to the shooter category, and the host is a girl, and the game underneath is exactly the game he knows. So the categories flipped, and the games did not. He sits up a little. He's got a face this world has already decided it likes. Gaming hands from a life that no longer exists, and no money whatsoever. His actual next thought is a legal one. How old is this body, and can a minor stream? That's when the front door goes, and Juno's home. She's heard about it, obviously. She comes in already teasing. I didn't know my little brother was an internet celebrity. He says something awkward. She asks if he was out with Milo today. Then she jumps straight past his answer to ask whether anybody harassed him out there, hands on his arms, checking him over like a nurse. He says he can look after himself. She tells him he's naive. The women in this world are much scarier than you think. If anyone ever touches him, he tells her first. And from now on, he tells her where he's going. He agrees, because agreeing is faster. Then his eyes drop to her phone on the table. The screen is lit, and the wallpaper on it is a photo of him. He knows every photo of him that exists. This one isn't one of them. By 8 the next morning, there are girls camped outside the gates of Kingsley Academy. Milo calls before Cade is even out of bed and tells him not to come in. 40 of them out there, phones up, waiting for the trending boy to walk into his own school. So, the protagonist asks Juno to phone the school for him. She does it in 9 seconds. She is a surgeon, and people say yes to her. So he stays home and does the one thing this body is still good at. He opens League of Legends and takes Yasuo into the jungle. Dragon at level 3, and a Garen who never sees him coming. Then, a quadra kill, then a penta. And the kid sits back with his hands off the keyboard. Everything else about him got replaced. The hands still work. That night, after dinner, he excuses himself, points the camera at nothing, and goes live. Welcome to Summoner's Rift. First time, so I'm a little nervous. Juno watches him take the stairs 2 at a time and files it away. She notices most things. The girl he ends up laning against is a professional. A salaried athlete, fresh account, streaming to a few thousand people. He kills her at level 6. Her chat detonates. Some of them decide the enemy is cheating. The rest decide the enemy is a girl on a boy's account, because obviously no boy plays like that. She announces she's getting serious, and she gets serious, and she loses the next trade anyway. Somebody in her chat notices the opposing player is also live, and a few thousand people change windows at once. Cade watches his own viewer count go vertical and tells his 3 original viewers that she's kind of awesome, but he's better. His own chat wants proof he's male, and it wants it right now. So, Cade grabs the headset, tells them flatly that he's a man, and holds his hands up to the camera. That was a mistake. 10 seconds later, nobody is discussing his gender. They are discussing his fingers, and several of them are being extremely specific about it. One of them says his hands are prettier than her whole face. He turns the camera off and goes back to farming. Meanwhile, in a corner office across Calder City, a woman has his stream open on one monitor. She is not watching the game. New face, unsigned, no manager taking a cut, numbers climbing live. Sloan Mar works out what that is worth to Kestrel Group in under a minute. Then she goes back to her email. It is a Tuesday, and this is the third thing she has monetized before lunch. The next day, Milo reports the crowd at the gate is thinner. Fewer questions, still plenty of talk. Then he asks what Cade has been doing at home for 2 days, gets told the truth, and nearly falls into traffic. Our guy covers his mouth and tells him to keep it down because nothing is signed. His phone picks that exact second to buzz. Voltstream, congratulating him. His numbers have cleared the threshold for a contract. Milo is already building the empire out loud. Sign it. Wear a mask, do a couple of dances, and let them throw gifts at a handsome boy. Cade says he streams games. He is not selling his face. They walk on, and about a block later, Cade works out that they are being followed. He doesn't tell Milo. He says he needs the supermarket, sends him home, and stops in an empty street to call it out. You don't need to follow me. Come out. A girl comes out. Pink hair, bomber jacket, 2 of her people behind her, and a grin that has never once been talked out of anything. The internet celebrity is standing in the territory she runs, which, as far as she's concerned, settles the matter. Sister's got you, pretty boy. Cade asks who she's supposed to be. One of the girls behind her is outraged that he doesn't know Roxy Pike. She runs everything on these streets. The girl gets punched in the face by her own boss for raising her voice. So Cade says, politely, that he doesn't know her, he isn't interested, and he needs to get home. Roxy likes that answer, and says so. She isn't hunting a fight, she's hunting a boyfriend. The kid stands there running the numbers, because half the boys in this world would take that offer. She's tall, she's got money, she's honestly not bad looking, and for 2 seconds, he is tempted. Then he remembers a woman standing in his bedroom, telling him to become a real man. Being kept is the exact opposite of that, so he says he isn't interested and moves to walk past her. The knife comes out at chest height. It would be so sad if your face got ruined. Cade tells her to try it. That is the wrong thing to say to Roxy Pike, because she likes him roughly 40% more immediately. It is also the last thing she enjoys for a while. He punches her in the face, elbows her in the chest, and puts her on her knees on the pavement. Her crew has not finished registering that a boy just did that. A kick comes at him, and she blocks it from the ground, which is genuinely impressive. She's up and swinging a second later. He ducks under it, and the knife is in his hand now, held flat between them. Her people start moving in, and nobody has decided anything yet. So Cade tells her he called the police 4 minutes ago. Everything stops. Roxy stands in the street with a bleeding mouth, working out whether he's bluffing, and decides she doesn't care. She smirks. Okay, little handsome. I won't do that again. One of her crew asks whether she is seriously letting him walk. She says you have to be patient with the beautiful ones. Cade tells her to stop right there and not follow him. She is having the best day of her year, and he can see it. That is the part that bothers him on the walk home, not the knife. The smiling. Meanwhile, back at Kestrel, an assistant puts a photograph on Sloan Mar's desk. She wants to know why this is her problem when the company employs scouts. The assistant says the chairman asked for it personally. So Sloan looks. High schooler, obviously. But that face could sit at the top of the company, and she tells them to investigate him properly. A few days later, this guy signs. Cade tells Milo in the mall, and Milo cannot process the terms. A face reveal only if Cade wants one. Offline events only if he wants one. He streams what he chooses. And there is a clause, in writing, saying nobody gets to ask him to sexualize himself. Milo wants to know how he got that. He asked, and they said yes. That is when Bryce Nolan spots them from across the atrium. They go to the bathroom. Bryce and 3 friends follow, and Bryce posts himself outside the door like a lookout in a film. On the way out, one of them shoulder checks Cade hard. The kid steps aside and calmly asks what he's doing. The boy starts shouting about eyes and walking. Milo points out that the bump came from their side and gets grabbed by the collar for it. So, the protagonist says the only part he actually cares about. Bump into me all you like. Don't put a hand on my friend. Then the boy tries to spit on him. Cade moves his head, asks if he's sick, and drops him with one punch. The second one steps in to help and runs directly into Milo Park. Milo, who cried in the queue for a haunted house. Milo, who owns 9 cardigans. He puts the guy on the tiles in about 4 seconds and stands over him. Next time, I break your legs. Our guy watches from 3 feet away and quietly revises his entire file on his best friend. Outside the mall, somebody shouts that, there he is. The boy who got punched has brought his girlfriend, and the plan is photos for the school forum. She arrives ready to swing, gets a clear look at the boy she is supposed to be hitting, and stalls out completely. Her boyfriend does the whole speech. Wife, that's him. He hit us. Teach him a lesson. She says hitting first is wrong, obviously, but she is a reasonable person. If Cade apologizes, they can forget today happened. He tells her to move. He's in a hurry. Her boyfriend, watching her watch him, accuses her of falling in love in real time. She tells him to shut up or he isn't getting that bag, and turns back to ask for Cade's number. 30 feet away, a boy called Gil Foy is filming all of it for the forum. He does not film for long. Roxy Pike takes the phone out of his hand. She asks whether he knows whose man he's photographing and hauls him over by the neck. He appears to enjoy the experience. She drops him at Cade's feet like a cat delivering a bird. 2 days. Do you know how much I missed you? The protagonist turns away from her, which does not discourage her even slightly. She reaches behind her back, and I honestly thought that was the knife again. It's a bouquet of roses. She holds them out in front of a crowd of shoppers. Be mine, and you can do whatever you want. Cade stands there looking at the flowers, thinking about the first time they met, when she showed him a blade. Then he says, no, flat, out loud, in public. So, she tells the whole street to clear off, walks over to Milo, and asks him pleasantly whether he's Cade's friend. The rest of it she says in his ear, quietly, and Milo goes gray. He doesn't hear a word of it. He doesn't have to. She just used his friend. The arithmetic takes about a second, her people going crazy on Milo, and she regretfully cannot stop them. So he folds and asks her what she wants. She takes his cheeks in both hands. Since the male god asks so nicely, obviously she can take a step back. 1 drink. A bar, tonight, her address. He says fine and asks for a time, and she gives him one and tells him she'll be waiting. On the walk home, a woman in glasses steps in front of him and asks him to come with her. The office is on a high floor. The woman behind the desk does not stand up straight away, and when she does, Cade's honest read is that the air pressure changed. This is Sloan Marr, president of Kestrel Group. She comes around the desk and looks him over the way you look at a horse. Good stock. There's nobody like you on the market right now. Sign this, she says, and she'll make him famous. Cade picks the contract up, reads about 9 words of it, and puts it back down. She has the wrong guy. He isn't going to be a star, and he's late for dinner. Then he walks out, and nobody in that building has ever seen anybody do that. Delphine Ivers, the secretary, catches his shoulder in the doorway. He is a high school student, she informs him, and he should stop being ignorant. So he takes her wrist, turns it over, and puts her on the carpet. Sloan comes off the desk at him herself. He slips the first strike and throws a punch at her face. That is where it stops going his way. She catches his fist in one hand and holds it there, not straining, just holding. A high schooler who can fight as well. That's a bonus. Cade thanks her and declines her kindness anyway. She tells him there's no rush. There is nothing in this world she cannot do. He should take some time to think about it. Then she has Ms. Ivers drive him home, and the kid sits in the back of that car deciding this woman is going to be a serious problem. Back home, Cade packs for a drink at a bar the way you'd pack for a war crime. A voice recorder switched on before he leaves the house. A pocket knife. Pepper spray. And one message to Milo. If I don't call you by 8:30, call the police. The kid walks there in the rain. Somebody at the door tells him the boss has been waiting a long time. Roxy Pike is on a couch in a back room with her crew standing around her. He turned up like he promised. He doesn't want to do anything to her. So why not go back to the beginning? She doesn't know him, he doesn't know her, everybody gets on with their lives. She says, that's going to be difficult, and moves closer. He tells her that if she keeps this up, he calls the police, and she laughs at that. She's chasing a boy. Since when is that a crime? Then, one of her girls suggests the efficient version. Take photos of him, take video, and if he resists, put all of it online. Our guy looks bewildered and asks what exactly she means by that. He is not bewildered. He is relieved because the recorder in his pocket has every word of it. Roxy asks her little girl whether she's making sense, and the girl pulls a knife. You brought that too, so if I say no, you kill me? He doesn't wait for an answer. The spray goes across the room. He's through the gap while they're still blind. Then he has the knife, and he has Roxy Pike held against him with the blade at her collarbone. Nobody moves. He tells the room not to send anyone after him unless they want blood in the street. Calling the police won't help them either. He backs to the door, lets her go, and walks out. Roxy sits down in a room full of her own people. She has all the time in the world to play with him, she thinks. Then her phone goes. It's a photo of her from 10 minutes ago. Under it, a message. Cade asked me to send this. He recorded every word said in that room, and if she doesn't want it going to the police, she should stop provoking him. She reads it twice, and the noise she makes is not a happy one. Outside, a woman in a parked car calls Sloan Marr to say the boy got out fine. At school, he picks up the rest of it from 2 girls in the corridor. Roxy Pike's territory has been taken over, and Kestrel Group moved in overnight. Cade stops walking because he knows that name. He was standing in that building being called good stock 4 days ago. Cade gets home that evening to find Juno cooking and the house empty. Errol and Delia are both working overnight, which he confirms twice, like a man checking a parachute. They are alone in this house until morning. His imagination gets a good 9 feet down that road. Juno flicks his forehead and asks what he's staring into space for. Nothing, he says. Let's eat. The protagonist spends the rest of dinner sternly reminding himself that this is his sister. Afterwards, he offers to wash up, and she lifts his hands off the sink. I'm never letting these hands get stained with oil. So, he goes upstairs to work. Our guy announces 2 hours of ranked and plays 2 hours of ranked. Then the door opens behind him. Juno wants to know if he's tired of streaming, and she pats the bed. Come here, she'll give him a massage. Stay strong, he tells himself, and goes over there anyway. He tries the polite exit first. She did the housework. She should be the one resting. She pulls him down beside her, pleased, because clearly this means he cares about her. He says, of course he cares. They're family. Her hands stop. Cade doesn't catch it, but the word lands somewhere wrong. She sits holding it for a second. Then she brings up something he said when they were small. She was frightened of something, and he told her not to be because he was always going to be her family. Then Juno Reyes starts crying. He panics and asks what's wrong. She says she's crying because she is so happy right now. So the protagonist says, the line he has been trying to grow into, as long as he is in this world, he will protect this family and keep every person in it happy. She looks up at him and apologizes for crying in front of her little brother. He tells her, thank you for treating him like real family. Somewhere in the last 10 seconds, the way she is looking at him stopped being about family. Then they end up in the same bed, because that is a thing that happens in this house now. Cade asks whether they should really be sleeping in here together. Juno points out that Dad and Mom are away. This is the perfect time, and she has always wanted to have this conversation properly. She gets closer in the dark and asks what type of girl he likes. He stammers something about gentle and kind. She hums and asks if there's anyone in particular. Then she tells him he's too young to be thinking about it anyway. And, you're good looking, so I worry about you. This world doesn't leave boys like you alone. Her hand is on his arm. She is not asleep. The kid lies there in the dark next to his stepsister, doing arithmetic on the word worry. He wakes up somewhere around 3, and the space beside him is empty. So Cade goes looking. Her door is open, her light is off, and there is no Juno in the room. Then, he notices the e-reader on her desk, screen still awake, and he does what anybody would do with an unlocked screen at 3 in the morning. He opens her highlights. It is a list of 14 web novels, and every one of them is about a sister and her brother, and the passages she has saved are not the wholesome ones. Some of them she has saved twice. The kid stands there holding the receipts. Then he runs yesterday again with the new information loaded. She cried when he called her family. She cried because he called her family. Those are not the same sentence. The protagonist puts the e-reader down exactly where it was, which is its own kind of confession. On the way back to his room, the headache arrives. It comes in behind his eye, and a memory that is not his opens up with it. A schoolyard. 3 kids on the ground. A girl in glasses standing over them, not out of breath, looking straight at him and saying something. The memory will not let him hear before it shuts off. Cade decides, standing in a dark hallway, that he does not want the rest of that one. The next night's stream lasts 40 minutes and dies. Chat keeps asking what's wrong with him. He can't hold a thought. The viewer count sits flat, and the rent in this house does not care how his week is going. Voltstream emails him that night. His growth has stalled, they say, and they have prepared some plans. Personally tailored by a woman. Option 1 is a hot dance in short shorts. Option 2 is a sexy cosplay stream. Option 3 is fitness, and the description includes the word sweat. Cade reads all 3 twice and tells an empty room that he knew it. He has a contract in writing saying nobody gets to ask him to sell himself. Obviously, they found a form to ask it on anyway. The next afternoon, a coffee shop. Milo comes along because he cannot understand why an administrator wants a face-to-face. They sit down across from Quinn Sable, who manages the streams, watches all of his, and says so in her first 10 words. She wasn't expecting him to take Plan 1 or Plan 2. She'd like him to think about Plan 3. He asks why fitness, and she stands up out of her chair to answer. I think your chest line could use some work, don't you think? Her hand is already on it. Cade sits very still. Milo says nothing at all, because Milo has decided this is a business meeting and he is a businessman. She makes the actual argument. He can wear a mask. He never has to show his face, and the physique does the rest, and there is nobody else on the platform doing it. Milo thinks that's reasonable, and our guy runs it himself. Mask on, skin covered, and he gets to show every man in this world how to build a body. 3 days a week, half an hour, face hidden. He agrees. At home, Errol Mercer takes the news like a man being told his son is joining a cult. He gets a hand around Cade's neck for it. You want to stream for those girls in tight clothes. Cade says it's a workout. His father says he's the one who's always warning that a boy this good-looking gets taken advantage of, and this is the opposite of listening. Then Juno steps between them and tells Errol not to be so strict. Let him try it once. If anything goes wrong, they stop it. Errol folds inside 4 seconds, muttering that she spoils the boy rotten, and Cade thanks her. She's already looking at him. I'll be watching. One flood of crazy girls and I shut it down. The first fitness stream is 30 seconds of cardio, and then a riot. Chat comes in sideways immediately. He's in good shape, he's unfairly hot, and somebody would like to see his feet. Cade is mostly watching the viewer number, which is doing something his gaming streams never did. A lot of people apparently enjoy fitness. Their husbands, of course, are not enjoying it at all. Somebody in chat makes an offer. Run 15 minutes and I'm sending 2 rocket launchers. That's the top donation tier on VoltStream, and it converts into real money, and it lands. Half an hour in, the chat is just people typing that he is still going. Down the hall, Juno has the stream open too. She is not watching the workout. She's watching the number climb, and every 1,000 of it belongs to somebody who isn't her. There are so many people looking at him now. She thinks it in a flat little voice, like a diagnosis. Then she gets to the part she has clearly thought about before. She can't be what she was when she was a kid. If she is, he only moves further away. She closes the laptop before the stream ends. The protagonist signs off, says he's getting a shower, and finds her waiting in the hall. That was too much, she says. Stream less in future. This is distressing me. Cade tells her it's honestly fine. This amount is nothing. Then Juno slaps his cheek. He stands in the hallway afterwards trying to file it as an illusion, some trick of the light and the late hour. It is not. That night, she comes into his room while he's half asleep. She sits on the edge of the bed in the dark and says that if they hadn't been separated as kids, none of this would look like this. She leans down closer and stops. And the headache brings the rest of the schoolyard with it. A girl in glasses asking a small boy whether nobody will play with him and telling him they can go together. The same girl, a minute later, standing over several kids on the ground while he tells her she's too scary. She takes his collar in one fist, not angry, just clear. We promise to be together forever. Come home with me. Morning. And there is a woman in his bed. Juno says, good morning like this is a normal Tuesday. Kate asks why she's sleeping in here. She came to check whether he was asleep and fell asleep herself, obviously. He announces he's going for a shower. There's no rush, she says. She'll buy a car this week so she can drive him to school. Walking in, he's thinking about finding a martial arts club, and Zero Nova appears at his shoulder. She has been practicing for a long time, she informs him, out of nowhere. Cade asks when exactly she learned to fight, and gets an answer with a whole family behind it. Her grandmother was a soldier. She's been training since she could stand. So, he asks her to teach him. And she says yes so fast, it's basically a reflex, and she walks him to the warehouse behind the playground, which she apparently already had. She asks if he's ready. She is in his face before the word finishes. Cade hesitates for a fraction of a second, and in that fraction she has both arms around him. You lost. Surrender. Then she wants her reward, and before he can ask what that means, she licks his ear. He gets clear of her, which takes a moment, because this body has opinions he did not authorize. The protagonist asks who taught her that. Nobody taught her. She watched some videos Piper Nash sent her. Our guy asks for the phone. The videos are exactly what he was afraid they were, and Zero explains, helpfully, that this is how men and women communicate. So Cade sits her down in a warehouse and explains that it isn't. Not like that, and not with anybody else. If she wants to know whether something counts, she asks him first. She takes that as a permission slip. For the rest of the week, she turns up beside him in corridors, at his desk, outside the cafeteria, asking the same 5 words. Does this count as practice? No, not now, later. Guilfoy watches the whole routine through a classroom window and mutters something about how this guy is unbelievable. Then a woman in a suit steps in front of him at the school gate and says she has finally got him. Delphine Ivers apologizes for the last time, which is a nice way to describe being put on a carpet. Sloane Marr wants to see him again. Cade tells her his answer hasn't moved and she's wasting everyone's day. Ms. Ivers, who is now visibly stuck, says she's following orders and she can't go back with nothing. So take a call, she says. On her phone. Right here. The kid takes the phone and gets straight to it. Nothing has changed. Her time is expensive. Don't spend it on him. Sloane lets him finish and then tells him what he actually wants. You want to be as powerful as a woman. You hate looking weak. I saw it when we fought. She doesn't only make stars, she says. He should take more time with it. Then she hangs up on him. Cade stands at his own school gate holding a stranger's phone, thoroughly read. Across the city, Sloane goes back to her inbox, mildly pleased with herself. The next morning, he arrives in a supercar with his stepsister leaning out of the window to fix his hair. Every student in the yard sees it, and by second period, the whole school has built a theory. They're on their phones, and they're not looking at him, which for this school is new. Milo asks whether something feels wrong. It has felt wrong since yesterday, and neither of them knows why. Then Guilfoyle comes over to ask for his homework, sweetly. Is Cade too busy at night to write it? No point studying when you're planning to live off your looks. Our guy hands the homework over and asks if he's jealous. Gil scoffs. Everyone knows about the girls, several times, every night. Cade turns the word over. Kept. That's a new one. Milo starts shouting that these are rumors, looks at his own phone, and stops shouting. The forum post is a photograph of the supercar, with Juno in it, and about 400 comments deciding that Cade Mercer is the boy older women take out for a ride. The teacher pulls him in for it before lunch. Bad influence on the school, she says. Be more careful in this society. Cade stops her mid-sentence. That was his sister dropping him off. Call her. And that post is slander, so he'd like the school to investigate it properly, today. Juno turns up an hour later. The quarter gets a very good look at her. The face, the age gap, the fact that she calls him her little brother in front of two teachers. The theory dies where it stands. She apologizes for the fuss, and Cade tells her to go back to work. Back in the classroom, Piper Nash announces she never believed a word of it. She and Milo have been running their own investigation, and they're certain it was Bryce Nolan. Then, somebody asks where Milo is. He isn't in class or in the yard. Zero finds a girl from class 3 who saw him near the third-floor bathroom. The three of them get there to find the door locked from the inside and a voice behind it saying, "Please, he's scared and it's so cold." Cade tells Zero to kick it. She takes it off the frame, straight up, on the first kick. Milo is on the tiles, soaked through, shaking. They poured milk over him and locked him in. He's crying and saying they have to tell the teacher. Cade crouches down, gets him upright, and says nobody's telling a teacher. He'll handle it. He handles it at the end of the day, in an empty corridor, with Bryce Nolan against a wall. Bryce goes for the script first. Careful, he'll tell the teacher. Cade will be the one expelled. Cade lets him finish, then explains the situation properly. His sister came to the school today. The forum post is already dead, and there are cameras behind the playground, which Bryce apparently did not know because his whole face changes when he hears it. Say it was a lie tomorrow, or I go to the teacher tonight. Bryce takes about 6 seconds to work out that, let's be real, there is no third option, and apologizes for the video. Cade tells him that if he keeps being this arrogant, somebody deals with him properly. On the walk home, Milo wants to know whether the guy will really let it go. Cade points out he's a senior with one video standing between him and a permanent mark on his record. He'll behave. Cade asks Zero who Sloane Marr actually is. Head of the Marr family and everything under it, she says, and one of the most powerful people in Calder City. He asks how that compares to Zero's own mother, who is the mayor. Zero thinks about it and says they're equal. The protagonist walks the rest of the way home, doing quiet arithmetic on that. 3 days later, in a house he will never see. Sloane realizes she has thought about him, every one of them. That weekend, Juno takes him somewhere with a wine list and no prices. It's a reward for the school business, she says. Order anything. Cade looks around a dining room that costs more than his father earns in a season and asks for a drink on the grounds that he is an adult. She tells him he is very much not and orders it for him anyway. Their parents aren't home tonight, so he can be reckless if he likes. One drink in, he's telling stories about nights out with men who don't exist in this world, and his stepsister is watching him with her chin on her hand, enjoying every second of it. 2 drinks in, the room tilts. He announces he's fine, he just drank too fast, and goes to find the bathroom. He finds the wrong one. The kid is washing his face when somebody behind him says hello. Cade looks up into a mirror with a woman in fishnets in it, asks what she's doing in the men's room, and gets told, calmly, that she isn't. Then 2 more women come in through the other door. He's trapped between them with nowhere to stand, doing the mental image of a sheep in a room full of wolves, and a hand closes on his collar and pulls him sideways into a stall. Sloane Marr looks delighted. You're a defenseless small fry. You should be panicking. He tells her he is not a small fry and that he was going to call her tomorrow anyway. She takes his chin between 2 fingers and moves it where she wants it. Forget the contract. Just be my man. Cade asks whether she's aware they have met twice. She mentions that the last person who refused her disappeared and names her. Roxy Pike, arrested for illegal trading, currently in a cell, courtesy of Sloane's people. He asks what she means by her people and whether she thinks she's above the law. You worry about the strangest things, she says. So, he tickles her ribs. It is the least dignified escape of his life, and it works, and he is out of the restaurant before she stops laughing. She is, he thinks, on the way past the coat check, in extremely good shape for a woman who has never once been told no. Juno wants to know why he was in there so long. He says he's just drunk. He is unconscious before the car reaches the driveway. At home, she gets him onto the bed, brings soup and juice he doesn't touch, and sits stroking his hair, telling him quietly that he's cute. She has decided they'll be together sooner or later. She says it out loud to a sleeping boy, which is the part that should worry him. Then she leans down over him, and the rest of that minute is her mouth and his neck. He half surfaces into it and thinks it's a dream. It isn't. Cade turns her over onto the mattress in one movement and stops there, holding himself above his own stepsister, having the shortest and worst argument of his life. Then he kisses her forehead and gets off the bed. Juno lies there looking at the ceiling and asks whether he's asleep. The phone on the desk saves them both by ringing. It's Nell Ito from the cafeteria at 11 at night. Juno picks it up and says her name before Nell can say anything, and gets straight to it. I know you've been chasing him for 2 years. Give up. Falling in love in high school is a waste of a good year, and Nell should stop imposing on him. She ends the call and looks at the boy on the bed. He belongs to his sister. That's the whole thought. And she can be patient. She'll take her time and control herself. For now. Our guy wakes up with a hangover and a neck. The marks are all over the left side of it, and Cade stands in front of the mirror running last night back, trying to establish which parts were a dream and getting nowhere. Then Juno walks in, cheerful, and asks if he's awake. He stammers something. She comes over and tilts his chin, inspects his neck with 2 fingers, and delivers her professional opinion. It seems he's allergic to alcohol. He asks, carefully, allergic to what? She steps in closer and says, let her check whether it's serious, because she is a doctor, and confirms it. Alcohol allergy. Not serious, but he should be careful. I'm a professional. Relax. Cade agrees that he'll be careful and goes down to breakfast with his collar up, thinking about the 16 highlights on an e-reader and running the phrase alcohol allergy one more time. At school, Milo takes one look at the turtleneck and asks who died. It's 20 degrees out. Cade says he's cold. Milo accepts that the way you accept a bad alibi. Then somebody grabs him by the collar in the corridor and demands to know if he's Cade Mercer. He doesn't answer. He turns his hips, takes the arm with him, and the girl goes into the floor with her shoulder out of its socket. Half the corridor hears it. Somebody says out loud that he's stronger than a woman, which, in this world, is the same sentence as saying, the sky is on fire. A boy steps over her to introduce himself. Denny Croft, delighted, hand already out. So, you're the man Nell Ito is in love with. Cade tells him to go and talk to Nell himself, and walks off. Denny stands there watching him go with the hand still out. Remember that one. Zero catches him outside and offers, calmly, to break the girl for him. He says no to all of it. Nothing worth escalating. She should keep teaching him to fight instead, because he's on a schedule. Milo asks what they're doing after school, and gets invited. He protests, of course, that he's a delicate young man. Nobody takes that seriously, including him. Across the city, Sloane Marr is at the side of a pool being annoyed about it. The small fry irritates her, she thinks, toweling off. And every time she closes her eyes, she sees him. She tells her assistant to bring him to the villa after school. Back at the warehouse, the workout is core because Cade wants an 8-pack on a deadline. Zero asks if he means like this, and lifts her shirt. The abs are real. He tells her she's far too thin to be hiding those, and he touches them because his hands are apparently operating under their own contract. Zero goes pink, clearly, and does not move an inch. Milo produces an actual magnifying glass from an actual pocket. There is something wrong with both of them, he reports. So, the protagonist asks her why she doesn't reject him. If you want, I'll show you. Milo points out, for the record, that she does absolutely everything this guy asks. So Cade goes looking for the edge of it and asks how much money she has on her. Hand it over. Zero is in her pocket before he finishes the sentence. She only brought a little today. The rest is on her phone, and the payment password is. He stops her there. Cade steps in closer and asks her why she does anything he says. We are friends, and friends can't say no. Which lands wrong, obviously. He thinks about her house, her family, the way that whole place ran. So, he puts the training down and says it properly. Friendship isn't like this. In a relationship, the two people have to be equal. If you don't want something, you never have to do it. Zero looks at him like he has read out a weather report in a language she doesn't speak. She says okay, which is not the same as understanding. The session ends early, and the kid walks home pleased with himself. 2 blocks later, he isn't. There's a figure at the mouth of an alley, and the street is empty. In a way, streets are not empty at this hour. So, he changes direction. Then, a little girl steps in front of him with a paper bag. Do you want some rice candy? She's doing social practice, spreading happiness to strangers. No red flour until the bag is empty. Cade takes one and tells her to get home. The candy tastes like smoke. Then, the pavement. He wakes up tied to a bed in a room full of mirrors. Hands, feet, all 4 secured. Nothing in the room but 40 reflections of himself, which somebody chose on purpose. The little girl leans in the doorway with a cigarette and calls down the hall that he is awake. Our guy asks why an elementary schooler is smoking. She takes the whole thing off, the wig, the coat, the voice. I'm 30 years old. I just look young. He says, that's worse. Then Sloane Mars sends everybody out and doesn't look up from her paperwork. Be quiet, I'm working. Cade, tied to a bed, points out that she is the one who put him there, and now she wants consideration. Does she have some kind of domineering executive syndrome? She puts the pen down and walks over. Last time he ran from her. Now he insults her. She wonders out loud whether he thinks she'll never do anything about it. So he asks the real question. Why tie him up if she has no interest in him at all? She says nothing back. So the kid does his homework out loud instead. She's president of Kestrel Group and head of the Mar family. A family that spent 30 years in businesses nobody writes down, cleaned up under her, now one of the biggest names in the country, on a history with a lot of blood in it. This world calls her a national goddess. He is, let's be real, a high school streamer with a webcam. So why would someone like you fall in love with someone like me? He doesn't believe it, he says. He thinks she wants a face for the company. He has no idea what she's planning and would rather not know. He wants a quiet, ordinary life. Let him go, thank you. Sloane lets all of it land. Then, you're not Cade Mercer at all. The room goes quiet. He asks what that means, and she answers like a woman reading a chart. There are too many changes in him, before and after, and she's done the research. He was raised by his father alone, traditionally. At that school, he was the gentle, cute, considerate one half the girls wanted. That is what people used to say. Now, everybody says he's a tough guy. He has completely changed. Cade lies there with his own face reflected from 4 directions, thinking he has been caught by somebody he met twice. That's the part he wasn't ready for. He's been busy learning the rules of a world where the rules run backwards. He never got around to reading up on the boy whose life he's wearing. So, he asks how she got there from a personality change. That's only the first point, she says. The second is that he wasn't excited enough when she walked into the room. He asks whether that's a famous person thing. Sloane says no. It's a fan thing. So, she shows him the posts. They're on the Dead Boy's account. All public, all archived by somebody with staff. A magazine cover of her, captioned with a question about how a woman this perfect can exist. A thread where he tries to trade pictures of her with other fans. And one, pinned, from 11 months ago. I'll study hard and become a man worthy of her. The protagonist reads his own handwriting on a sentence he has never once thought. He had no idea the previous tenant worshipped this woman daily. Sloane sits on the edge of the bed and finishes it. Now he has no impression at all of being her fan. And he shouldn't bother offering a split personality or amnesia, because humans learn, and nothing about him learned. A brand new account with no history reached the top 100 in a month. A boy who never threw a punch went head-on with the gang boss. She is, basically, 100% sure. That's not a personality. It's a change of soul. Cade says, that's insane. No normal person thinks that way. And even if she's right, what does she want out of it? She stares at him a while and drops it on the floor between them. Her team is researching the Black Sun. He asks, too fast, why she's so sure it's connected to him. She has that ready too. His personality changed days after the night the Black Sun hung over this city, so she thinks he's part of it. Assists the investigation, and she tells him everything. She guarantees his safety, and nobody takes samples of him for anything. The contract is on the table. Take it home, read it properly, and he gets paid just for cooperating. He asks who else is studying the Black Sun. As far as she knows, nobody, which is honestly not comfortable given he came here believing he was the only person alive who saw it. Then she unties him, and on the way to the door she spins him into the wall. Cade asks what she's doing. That's the prize for hitting me last time. And this woman, president of Kestrel Group, national goddess, a company worth billions, holds a high school boy against a wall and spanks him. Cade gets driven home, planning to remember the humiliation for the rest of his natural life. Juno is at the door before the car has finished stopping. She hugs him, says she was worried, asks where he's been. He says shopping, lost track of time, and heads for the shower. Then she catches his wrist. You smell like another woman. Cade denies it fast and badly. Internally, he asks the universe why a woman he was tied up in front of has a scent this durable. He offers the Q theory. Busy shop, lots of people. Juno takes his cheeks in both hands and squeezes them until his face is a shape. He needs to pay attention or somebody will take advantage of him. She smiles, tells him to shower, and says she'll wash the clothes for him. She does not wash the clothes for him. She burns them in the yard, muttering that he doesn't need anything on him that smells like another woman. Meanwhile, across the city, Delphine Ivers gets handed a photograph. It's a young woman in a hospital coat, and Sloane wants her investigated. Ms. Ivers names her without being asked. That's Cade Mercer's stepsister. Sloane nods. She wants everything in her past. The timing of that girl becoming his sister is too strange. Back home, the protagonist gets invited into her room so she can dry his hair. He doesn't ask why the hair has to be dried in there. He's mid-thought about the fact that his sister looks like that in a house dress when he clocks a message open on her screen. It's from a man called Theo Brandt, who fell in love with her on sight and would like to offer her his first time. Cade says a word he'd never say in front of her and apologizes for reading it. She waves it off. Tell him she has a boyfriend. He says she shouldn't waste a second on a man who opens with that. Juno smiles like somebody who has run this exact experiment before, hands in the phone, and goes to shower. Block him for her, would he? So he blocks the guy. And he keeps scrolling, because he is a person. In among her group chats, there's one with her friends in it, and the group is named after him. At school the next day, he can't get any of it out of his head. The chat. The last time he touched her, and the fact that she didn't resist. Then, somebody says hi to him. It's Cass Beaumont, pink hair, whole face already smug. He hears Cade streams too. Let's compete. Most yachts tonight wins. Cade says he isn't interested in earning money off the attention of random girls, and if Cass enjoys it, he should do it alone. Cass starts to stutter with rage and gets told the infirmary can help with that. That night, the kid streams with no mask on. He's playing well, and he looks like that while he does it, so chat goes into open revolt. Double kills, quadra kills, MVP after MVP. And a wall of women informing each other that no matter how long they look at his face, it stays male perfection. Suddenly, one donation lands and stops the whole channel dead. 990 yachts, the top tier on Voltstream, in one go. The name on the donation is hers, obviously. Cade says out loud that she is, as always, absurd. One night of that is enough. The mask goes back on for the next stream, and this time he tells chat it's staying on. And he still hasn't signed her contract, which is not about the money. It's the clause that has him moving out of the family home, and he can't do that one. Whatever the yachts were meant to say, he's giving them back. Across town, Cass ends his own stream early with a story about his stomach. He sits in the dark, calling Cade a snake who pretends to be innocent and makes a phone call. He needs a favor, money is not a problem, and by morning he'll have ruined somebody's reputation permanently. He should have checked who owns the person he called. The next day, two women across the street watch Cade walk past. One says, that's the boy the streamer once dealt with. The other says he's not bad looking, recognizes him properly, and tells her to call the boss right now because that is the one Ms. Marr likes. 20 minutes later, Delphine Ivers is in front of her employer. A streamer approached one of their people to take compromising photographs of him. Sloane doesn't raise her voice. Terminate the contract. The rest is Ms. Ivers's problem now. Back at home, our guy is still doing arithmetic on the yachts when his phone rings with her name on it. He picks it up. Then Juno walks into his room and asks who he's talking to. Cade says it's a girl selling insurance and hangs up on the president of Kestrel Group. He knows, in real time, exactly how bad an idea that was. Across the city, a woman tells somebody to bring a car around immediately. He's still standing there deciding how to apologize when she calls back. Come out alone right now, or I send people in. He asks if she's seriously threatening to break into a private home. Then, a car horn goes off outside his window. The kid looks out at a motorcade parked along his street in a residential neighborhood at night. He says he'll call the police. Sloane invites him to go ahead and find out whether it's illegal to park at the side of a road. So he tells Juno he's going to the corner shop. She offers to come. He says he'll be quick, gets outside, and calls to tell her he's out. She can hang up now. She doesn't hang up. She asks who else he's offended lately because somebody has been following him through the city all week. 30 meters ahead, turn right, into the dark. The person may be armed, so pay attention. He asks whether this is a good plan. She says, don't be afraid, she's close by. Lure them in, and she'll handle the rest. Cade stands in an alley in the dark thinking, hurry up. Then, a masked figure comes around the corner at a dead run. He ducks the first punch. The second goes past his ear, and the mask calls him a rat. That's when the protagonist works out what he's dealing with. Dangerous, absolutely, but not fast. So he steps off the line, sweeps the leg, and puts the whole thing on the ground. He's on top of it a second later with a handful of jacket, demanding to know who this is and what the problem is. It's a woman's voice under there, furious. This is all because of you. That's how she ended up like this, apparently. Cade tells her to take the mask off and talk properly, reaches for it, and catches an elbow across the face that would look good in a highlight reel. He goes down hard. The masked woman stands over him and pulls a weapon. Then, a fist comes out of nowhere and removes her from the frame. Sloane Marr is standing in the alley shaking out her hand. She thought this one had fled to another province, not come back here. The mask is off in the dirt. It's Roxy Pike, straight up. She's screaming that she refused nothing, she just wanted him, and now she's ruined. He seduced Sloane, he sold himself to a rich woman, all of it his fault. Sloane cut straight across her. The arrest had nothing to do with him. Roxy went too far, used the Kestrel name to bully people, and ran an extortion racket for a year. Then Sloane ties her hair back, which is the part Roxy should have paid attention to. Roxy gets one shot off, screaming about silver spoons and what a rich lady could understand about her situation. Sloane agrees she doesn't understand it. It still doesn't excuse any of this. Then she puts her fist through Roxy Pike's face and drops her on the concrete. Scum who touch my man are dealt with by me. Cade stands in an alley watching a billionaire knock somebody out and quietly reclassifies every previous conversation they've had. Sometime later, he apologizes and asks to be taken home before his sister starts worrying. Sloane stares at him and asks whether he's forgotten why she came out tonight. He guesses the contract. That was one reason. The main one was to warn him somebody is arranging compromising photographs of him. He asks who would want to do something that stupid. That is not the point either. The point is that he hung up on her before she could explain, and she wants to know whether he doesn't want to talk to her. Cade, who has no good answer, apologizes for the phone call. Then she gets a look on her face. Are you willing to accept a punishment? He says, punishment? What punish? And Sloane Marr takes his face in one hand and kisses him. The kid's whole brain files an emergency motion to push her off. It gets overruled somewhere around the second, because her mouth is soft and his objections are theoretical. Then, his stepsister walks through his head, and he shoves the president of Kestrel Group away at arm's length. Miss Marr, he says, why is she doing this? Why is she playing games with him? He's a high school student, and you just took my first kiss. Sloane doesn't apologize. She looks at him for a long moment, and inside her head, one fact quietly changes everything about the deal she's been trying to close. That was his first. Then he tries to give the yachts back. Sloane finds the whole idea funny because it's a little money, she says. Who does he think she is? What she doesn't understand is the other thing. Do you want to get rid of me? Why won't you sign? Cade says he can't sign it right now. She wants a reason, and he doesn't have one he's willing to say out loud, so he says he's tired and asks to go home. They part on the corner. Sloane watches the car pull away and files the whole night under unfinished business. I have never failed at anything I set my mind to. Back at home, the kid lies in the dark running the tape again. He can't work out why he thought about his stepsister while somebody else was kissing him. Maybe he likes her. After that, he tells himself to wake up. She's his sister. The next morning at school, Zero Nova is wearing black stockings. White every other day of her life, so he clocks it in about a quarter of a second and then spends the rest of the morning pretending he didn't. She asks if he's all right. He says yes and hands her a present, a small, rifle-shaped pendant for all the training. It's the one she said was her favorite, the one at her house. Zero takes it in both hands and promises to treasure it. He tells her that's all he wanted. Privately, he'd like somebody to explain why a change of socks is doing this to him. At lunch, he asks why she keeps staring at her own legs. Because he's been staring at them all morning. Do you like my legs? He admits it. They're beautiful. And there was never any hiding it either. Zero goes quiet for a second and moves closer. You can touch them if you want. The protagonist thinks about it, which is 1 second longer than he expected to need. Touching them feels like the wrong shape of thing to do, so he offers an experiment instead. Would she object if he put her on his lap? She stands up and sits on his lap. She doesn't hesitate for a second, and her face stays perfectly calm. He's delighted, and then immediately worried about being delighted. She's obedient in a way that doesn't exist in this world. He hears himself say out loud that he wishes he had a sister like her, hears it a second time, and quietly asks what is wrong with him. So, he asks whether any of this disgusts her. A little, she says. Mostly it's comfortable. Nobody has ever held her like this. Which he files under her family, obviously, and not under himself. That's when he notices the pendant, tied around her wrist like a bracelet. It's the first present anybody has ever given me. So, she wanted it where she could see it. Cade asks her to say that again, and she says it again the same way. Her old friends asked her for money and never gave her anything back. He tells her those weren't friends and she should drop every one of them. So, he asks whether Piper Nash ever asked her for money. No. Piper only gives her strange films, and she stopped looking at those when he told her to. Piper Nash, still at large. He tells her to put the pendant in her bag and promises her a real bracelet. Back in class, there's something on the floor by his desk. He reaches for it, and somebody else gets there first, holds it up, and starts shouting that Cade brought this to school, and this school is being ruined by him. Denny Croft, of all people, working very hard at being appalled. The room does the arithmetic. Some of the girls decline to believe it. Cade stands up and points at his own drawer, which is stuffed with things other people posted into it, and says whatever is in Denny's hand got there the same way. Then the punchline. Keep this up, and I'll feed it to you. Denny leaves, and Milo announces to the class that whoever did this is a pervert, which is true and completely unhelpful. It happens again the next morning, obviously. And the one after that. 4 days of it. Our guy binning the evidence and kicking the bin every single day on schedule. Milo reports the rumor is doing laps of the school. Cade points out that somebody is spending real money to slander him, and money leaves a trail. Don't panic, he tells him. He'll catch the guy. So he whispers something to Zero, and she says she'll get it. They install it after school. Milo, thrilled, announces that tonight they catch a pervert. The next morning, somebody lets himself into the classroom before anybody else, reaches into Cade's drawer, and trips a laser. The camera fires on Denny Croft, red-handed, at 7 in the morning, working harder at this than he has ever worked at school. Cade throws the thing back in his face and tells him not to waste it, given the expense. Denny wants to know how he found out. He didn't. He just installed an anti-theft system. So, Denny shouts for help, and the room fills up. Boys and girls both. And let's be real, in this world, it's the girls who matter. Denny tells them to take him to the toilets first. One comes at him, and the protagonist slips the punch and returns it. Another comes in with a kick, and he blocks that too. He's holding. That's when Zero arrives, and the temperature drops. Denny screams at her to stay out of it. Zero jumps, knees the nearest one across the nose, and puts her on the floor. Then she stands on her, and there's blood on the tiles. She isn't shouting, she's just watching the girl shake, and then both her hands are around the girl's throat. The girl is begging, "I'm going to kill you." Flat, like a weather report. Cade shouts at her to stop. He's fine, nothing happened, and if she keeps going, this stops being a school problem and becomes a police one. She lets go. 3 people are on the floor when the teacher walks in and asks what exactly is going on. Cade has no useful answer. That's the first time anybody gets a look at what's underneath Zero Nova's manners. The school announces it that afternoon. Denny Croft, senior class 4, expelled for bringing prohibited items in to slander a student. Milo asks through the window whether Zero will be okay. Cade doesn't know, and considering her family, probably not. He gets home soaked through and calls her. Zero answers crying. She's in the storeroom again. It's dark in there. He asks her to repeat that. Every time she makes a mistake, her mother locks her in the storeroom, the mayor of Calder City, running her own house like that. Cade sits on the edge of the bed and tells her they can talk about something else. Anything. So he does exactly that for an hour until her breathing goes slow. Then he stays on the line a while longer anyway. The next morning, he wakes up with a fever. Standing in the rain has apparently cost him a day, which he takes personally. A little water, and this body folds. Juno comes in to wake him for breakfast, gets a hand on his forehead, and switches into doctor. Medicine, water, and an offer to feed him. He says no, because they're siblings. She backs off without one word of argument, which is somehow worse. She brings him soup anyway. So he asks her why she's this good to him. Juno takes a moment with it. Then she tells him, with none of the teasing she usually runs, "Because I'm willing to take care of you for the rest of my life." Cade hears a marriage proposal and takes the bowl off her. He can eat by himself, thanks. He decides he's overthinking it. She's calm about everything, she's the caring one, and that's all this is, so he falls asleep with her sitting beside him. Juno watches him sleep and thinks a year ago none of this would have been possible. Then, quietly, "Do you hate your sister?" Across the city, Sloane Marr has the same problem from the other end. She kissed him because he was cute. She'll admit that to herself and to nobody else, ever. She likes that he doesn't fold, and she has never met a man built like this one. Then, she catches herself and asks whether she is thinking about a high school boy, a clearly unreasonable amount. Meanwhile, the boy is asleep and his phone is ringing. It's 2 in the morning and it's her, and she's nervous enough to announce her own name first. Cade asks whether somebody wants him dealt with again. She says she can't sleep. He sits up and asks whether she wants a bedtime story or a song. Sloane tells him to speak to her carefully. He asks why anyone would be polite at 2 in the morning. So she changes tack and asks whether Zero Nova is the one teaching him to fight, because Zero is average. Come to me instead, and I'll train you properly. He has the base for it. He could make a good bodyguard. First a star, now a bodyguard. He tells her he's casually practicing with a friend, and not to call again or the number changes, and hangs up. In the morning, there's a note beside his bed telling him to wear a jacket to the bathroom. He's still holding it, quietly wrecked by it, when Juno asks him to help choose her clothes. She comes out in something long and thin, and he tells her not to come out like that. His nose has already started. Straight up, only willpower is keeping him standing. He picks her an outfit fast. Then she turns around, and he sees a tattoo on her ribs. He doesn't ask. She tells him to stay home and rest, and leaves for work. The kid decides he needs money faster than this. There's $50,000 waiting for him for reporting Roxy Pike, so he goes to collect it. The officer at the desk says a month, if nothing goes wrong. He points out that he is an adult, more or less, and asks for cash. She apologizes. The conditions on that money were set by Ms. Marr, and he'll have to take it up with Kestrel Group. Sloane hears he's coming before he gets there, of course. He hung up on her at 2 in the morning, and now he's walking into her building with his hand out. She's going to enjoy this. In the lift, a guard asks if he's a middle schooler and which school, and has anybody told him how he looks. He answers as briefly as politeness allows. At the top floor, she takes his hand. Love at first sight, she never believed in it either, and I could never love another man again. The doors are fully open by the end of that sentence. Sloane is standing on the other side of them. The guard says, "Good morning, President," in the voice of a woman who already knows. Sloane tells her to get out and not to come back to the company. The guard goes down on her knees. She works hard. She's never made a mistake. Please. Cade asks what exactly she did wrong. Sloane asks whether he's interceding for her. He helps the guard up and says, "Every girl has her pride, and changing jobs isn't the end of the world." The guard says nobody will hire somebody. Sloane Marr fired. Sloane takes his wrist and pulls him in. "How dare you flirt with someone in front of me?" He asks which eye saw flirting. She showed him the way. He said a few words, and firing her over it is unreasonable. Sloane wants to know what they talked about. He asks whether she's always this nosy. That's when she stands, and he loses the thread for a second, because regular exercise has done what regular exercise does. She catches him at it and smiles. Fine. He can keep the guard if he wins a game. She throws a cigarette straight up. Her left hand, his right, catch it first, and the woman keeps her job. Cade likes his own reflexes, so he takes the bet. She tosses it, they both go, and he has it before she's halfway there. He says so out loud, pleased with himself. Sloane doesn't stop moving and comes down on top of him, murmuring that she lost. So the protagonist ends up flat on the floor under the president of Kestrel Group, working out whether he's being taken advantage of and deciding he can live with it either way. Then she tells him he has no shame at all, rolling her skirt up, touching her leg. He points out he caught the thing. She can't fire the guard, and would she please get up? She does this every time. He's honestly starting to think she likes him. She says she doesn't know whether she likes him or not. "You're the type of man who attracts me most. Sure of himself, brave, responsible." She has never met one built this way. Cade lets all of that go past him and asks for his 50,000. She needs the bathroom first. He waits, decides she's stalling because she's enjoying herself, and takes a call from Juno telling him off for not staying home. He says he's helping Milo with homework. He gets told to come back soon and be careful. Then Sloane comes back in a different outfit. He notices and hates that he notices. She catches him smoking and says children shouldn't. He explains that he lit it to smell it and asks what she was doing in there. "I'm a normal woman too. Stop tempting me so casually." He elects not to think about that answer. Then she tells him she won't be giving him the 50,000. The market price of that cigarette is 60, apparently, so as of now, he owes her 10. He asks if she's lying to his face. She invites him to look it up. He says a 60,000 cigarette isn't possible, and she laughs at him. The price is real. Paying it is not. And she hands over the whole 50. Cade counts it and tells her that for a woman with a temper, she's trustworthy. And now, the other thing. His behavior lately has been inappropriate, so they should see each other less, or not at all, and her productivity can go back to 100%. Goodbye. Sloane watches him leave and promises herself she'll get him back for that. Back at the house, Juno and a friend are going through a photo album. It's all him, and the friend says she has a truly unreasonable number of pictures of her brother. Juno thinks, of course she does. This is the treasure. There will be more of it. That's when the front door goes. Juno is up before the friend can finish the word, pinches her, and puts a look on her that ends the sentence. Kate asks, "What's going on in here?" "Nothing. They were reading literature." The friend agrees. "Literature." Our guy asks which literature and whether he can see it, so Juno goes suddenly sleepy and drops onto him. He asks if she's all right. She's fine, and what she'd like to know is why he went out again when she told him to rest. He says he was bored. She tells him he has a face that could start a war in this country and he should protect it. He agrees to protect it and escapes upstairs. The album stays shut. Downstairs, the friend asks why he can't see it. Juno doesn't explain. She just looks at her and says that if she involves herself in this, they aren't friends anymore. Her friend agrees, quickly, not to ask. Back in his room, the protagonist is doing the accounts on his day. Every hour with Sloan Marr cost him a week. He's still adding it up when something in the window catches his eye. There's a man outside the house. Not walking. Standing, watching, working out the angles. Cade runs it fast. His father is out, Delia is out, and the only other person in the building is his sister. He goes downstairs, where the friend is gone. She had something on, apparently. So he tells Juno what he saw. A man circling the house, sneaking around, and she should be careful. Juno pats him on the head. She's happy he was worried about her. But there's no need, because she already knows who's out there. He says she doesn't. She says it's the one who was sending her the photographs. Cade remembers the man immediately and reclassifies him from stalker down to weirdo. Then, Juno gets a hand under his chin and tips his face up. She's smiling and wants to know why he's blushing. He isn't. He's just decided he isn't taking another day off. He's going to school tomorrow. That does not please her at all. Why the hurry? Does he have a girlfriend there? He says, absolutely not. He wouldn't fall in love this early. Juno comes in closer and tells him not to lie to his sister. Then, in the voice most people use for the weather, "A brother who looks like you is a happy sort of trouble. I really want to keep you by my side." Cade asks her what she just said. "Nothing at all," she says. She'll drive him to school in the morning. The next morning, Juno drops him at the gates and Zero Nova is eating alone. Milo reports that nobody has gone near her since the fight. 3 days of it. Everybody saw the blood on the tiles, so the whole year has quietly agreed she's radioactive. Cade walks straight over and sits down, and Milo follows him like a man boarding a plane he doesn't trust. He apologizes for dragging her into it. Zero doesn't take the apology. "Are you afraid of me?" He pats her head and asks how he could be afraid of somebody this obedient. That lands. She goes bright for the rest of the morning. Behind them, half the class decides out loud that they'd take being frozen out too, if it bought them 5 minutes with the porcelain boy. At lunch, they eat in the club room with the door locked. She opens a lunchbox with about 9 things in it. He's working through a bread roll, so she offers him half of everything she owns. He tells her that's genuinely nice of her. After that, she stares at his hand for a while and asks whether she can touch it. He chokes slightly and asks, why, suddenly? Because the girls have been telling her she's never kissed anybody and never held a hand, and she's wasting her looks. Too naive, they said, and never going to get the chance in her life. Cade tells her there's no rush, and it'll happen eventually. Zero looks at the table. "My grandmother told me never to let anyone belittle me." Then, in the flat voice she uses for the weather, "Can I kiss you?" He asks her to say that again. She says it again, watching him, waiting. So, the protagonist runs the numbers on it. If a kiss makes her feel less small about what those girls said, he doesn't mind. Privately, he notes that she's good to him. It's one kiss, and he isn't going to refuse. She announces she's going to kiss him and starts moving. He stops her with a hand at the back of her neck and tells her he'll do it since it's her first. If she's shy, she can close her eyes. She closes them. They kiss. Zero's heart is going so hard she can hear it, and Cade decides this is roughly as good as this world gets. Then somebody knocks on the door. Both of them freeze. Zero says it's fine, because the door is locked. By now, the whole floor is presumably speculating about why this room is always locked, and what happens inside it. He tells her, a little embarrassed, that at least nobody can tease her about never having kissed anyone. That's when she takes his hand and puts it flat over her heart. "My heart is beating too fast. Am I sick?" The protagonist's hand is where it is, so he handles the situation the way any responsible man would, by talking about brain chemistry. It's dopamine. She's happy because she enjoyed it, and it's nothing serious. Inside, he's calculating how bad it would be if she started actually liking him. "I liked it. I want to practice." And she's already leaning in. He puts a rule on it fast. Friends don't kiss. Generally speaking, anyway. He doesn't mind himself, but she is not to go asking anybody else for practice. Only him. Zero agrees instantly, and he promises to teach her slowly. He'll regret that phrasing inside 4 hours. That night, she sits alone in her room and puts on one of the films Piper Nash sent her. She watches the whole thing, start to finish, two fingers on her own wrist the entire time. Nothing happens the whole way through, not one beat faster. Zero stares at the ceiling and wants to know why hers doesn't do what everyone says it should. So she calls Kate about it, obviously. She reports the experiment and asks him to explain the result. He knows exactly what Piper sends people, so he buys time. Good question, difficult question. Ask him anything whenever she likes. But he's getting in the shower now. She says she'll shower too, and they can keep talking. So the two of them stand under running water solemnly, announcing that they're washing their hair. Outside the bathroom door, Juno is listening to her brother talk to somebody in there. She goes and sits on his bed with her phone and works Milo like a witness. Is Cade being chased by a lot of women? Milo, useful as a brick, says, obviously, look at him. Does he have a girlfriend? No, and she can relax. Juno reads that twice. No girlfriend means the position is open, and she has a chance. She is finished waiting for a better moment to come along. So she lies down in his bed. Meanwhile, the protagonist is closing out the strangest phone call of his life. He tells Zero he'll send her proper material to study. If she's going to learn any of this, she's learning it from something better than Piper Nash's phone. Then he opens his bedroom door, and there's a lump under his blanket. He pulls it back and finds his sister. I was waiting for you to get out of the shower so we could watch a movie. She fell asleep, apparently. Cade apologizes for taking so long. His own phone is currently open on things he does not want a cardiac surgeon reading over his shoulder. He kills the screen and messages Zero that he'll get in touch later. Juno asks what he wants to watch. Horror, he says, because horror is frightening and being frightened means you get to hold on to somebody. She says she's sweaty and she'll shower first and he should wait for her downstairs. You can already guess what comes out of that bathroom. While he waits, the kid does the theory. Back home, the girl clings to the guy during the scary parts. Here, it's reversed. So, by local rules, the clinging is his job now. He is looking forward to it more than he'd admit under oath. Then Juno comes down in a nightgown, and he asks what exactly she thinks she's doing. She ignores that and asks whether he picked a film. He picks one immediately, mostly to have something else to look at. Something about a girl coming out of a well. Except, in this world, it's a man coming out of the well, which he finds about as frightening as a bus timetable. Juno finds it extremely frightening. 10 minutes in, she has a fistful of his sleeve. 20 minutes in, she's against his shoulder with her eyes shut, and she asks him in a small voice, "You won't think I'm useless, will you?" In her head, she is genuinely terrified and slightly annoyed about it, because the plan was for him to jump on her. He puts an arm around her and says, "Everybody is scared of ghosts." Juno decides this outcome is better than the plan. Cade notes for the record that his heart is going and his thoughts are clean. Then he imagines his father coming through the door and beating him to death on principle. She asks what he's thinking about. Nothing, he says. It's late. At the top of the stairs, she takes his hand and asks if she can sleep in his room tonight. He works through the charitable half first. Scary film, poor thing, of course. Then, the other half. He will not sleep a single minute with her lying next to him. She pouts and asks him, "Do you want me to sleep with you?" He says he doesn't mind. So, she lies down beside him and tells him he's brave because he wasn't scared and she was. He tells her she doesn't have to perform for family. She can just be frightened. That's allowed. Juno goes shy and puts her head against his neck. The protagonist lies there like a man in a machine that's telling him not to move. In the morning, she gets up radiant. I have never slept better in my life. Then she looks at her brother, who has the eyes of a man awake since Tuesday, and asks what happened. Nightmares from the horror film, she decides. No more of those, ever. Kate agrees. Excellent theory, no notes. At the sink, brushing his teeth, his phone starts going off, and it's Milo. Milo has cut him out of about 40 photographs and built a sticker pack out of his face. The baby is angry. Don't eat. The museum piece is angry. He's posting the whole set tonight, and he is confident they go viral. Cade tells him to stop photographing him. Milo does not stop photographing him. Downstairs, his sister is already using them. He tells her they're garbage Milo made, and she shouldn't have them on her phone. Juno sends him a sticker of his own face and keeps every single one. At the gates, the girls are waiting, because one of them has recognized the emoji guy in person. Somebody wants an autograph on her backpack. He gets inside, finds Milo, and offers him violence. Milo offers him more stickers. That's when Zero asks whether he's upset. It's a joke, he says. All of it is a joke. He notices her fringe is shorter and asks whether she cut it. She says she just washed it. Then, because she can't hold a lie for 4 seconds, she admits she cut it to look cuter for him. Cade files a private note that she is easier to deal with than his sister, and considerably easier than Sloan Mar. She has a secret base. She'd like to show him tonight. The secret base turns out to be a dead classroom in the old building, and specifically the floor under a desk in it. The room is already in use by people doing exactly what you'd expect. So the two of them are folded up in the dark under a desk. Cade has the powerful sense of being somewhere he is not allowed. Zero starts to say something, and he covers her mouth with his hand. Then she licks it. He goes completely still, which is all his body has to offer. She looks at him and says, "You know what I want," and kisses him properly. No permission requested this time. He has zero resistance, and he knows it. She's in his class. She's always this close. She's always this affectionate. The only real problem is what happens if his sister ever finds out. Halfway through, he has to stop her and explain that people breathe during this. She says, "Fine, I'll keep practicing." He says they need to get back to class. Walking back, they're holding hands, and the protagonist finally asks himself the actual question. Does he want to date Zero Nova? He gets about 4 seconds into it before his sister walks into his head and shuts the whole thing down. He can't choose Zero. Not while that's sitting there unresolved. Interesting detail, though. Sloan Mar does not appear in that calculation at all, not even as something he turns down. She'd love to hear that. Across the city, Delphine Ivers is pitching her boss on the best asset the group has stumbled into by accident. Photos of him at the mall made him famous on their own. They should be building on the face while it's hot. Sloan says, no. She doesn't want his photographs circulating on the internet because he's going to be her man. Ms. Ivers has to tell her it's already too late. The sticker pack is selling like water in a desert. Sloan finds the pack, scrolls it, and watches strangers trade 40 pictures of him. Now she looks at the document stacked on her desk and fails to read a single line of them. She bites her finger remembering the kiss and goes down to the car. Cade is nearly home when he clocks the car parked outside his house. Of course it's her. He tells her flatly that they agreed on this. "Erase me from your life." The meetings and the calls were supposed to stop. Did she change her mind? She says they kind of agreed, yes, and she couldn't control herself. And here she is, the war hero, undone by a phone screen. He points out that she runs a company and served in an army and cannot manage this one small thing. She says she saw his photographs going around and a lot of women talking about him. Suddenly, she has him by the collar. Do they think they can touch my man? Cade is looking past her at his own front door. If Juno comes out now, his life gets complicated in a way he can't fix. So he tells her to drive somewhere else and gets in. In the car, he sets about making himself as unattractive as possible. He explains at length the type of woman he likes. Cute, obedient, a bit babyish, and inclined to agree with him. Nothing whatsoever like her. Being with her feels like being managed, he says. She'd hold every opinion in the vehicle, and he wouldn't get issued one. Sloan sighs, and then laughs at him. Is that really what he wants? A weak woman? Were the women in his world like that? He tells her she can imagine whatever she likes. He isn't discussing his world, and she just needs to understand that she is not his type. How do those incompetent women compare to me? Money, status, fame? None of it is a problem for her. He could stay at home, and she'd give him everything he wanted. Cade privately concedes that it does sound tempting. Out loud, he tells her she'll find another good-looking man and forget about him, and she should give it time. Then she takes his chin, leans in, and starts on Zero instead. Does he think that girl is what she pretends to be? He doesn't know the kind of woman she is. And Cade snaps. Leave Zero out of it. Zero, not Nova or the Nova girl. Just the name, the way you say it about somebody who's yours. Sloan hears it, and the temperature in the car drops about 10 degrees. He notices and gets annoyed on principle. What's the problem with a name? If she wants one, he'll invent one for her too. She turns away. That's enough of that. Which he notes with real interest, because he has just made Sloan Mar shy. He tells her it's how friends talk, and she shouldn't overthink it. So, he offers her the deal. They can be friends, as long as she stops following him around everywhere. The plan being a slow fade. Distance, time, forgetting. At his own gate, there's a man waiting with a present. Friend of your sister, he says. Would Cade pass it on? Then, Cade places the face. This is the one who's been sending Juno photographs of himself. He tells him that what matters to his sister matters to him. If he turns up here again, it's a police report for harassment. Theo Brandt leaves. Theo Brandt has not given up. Inside, Juno couldn't be bothered to cook, so dinner comes out of paper bags. It's good to indulge in junk food once in a while, she says. This guy is having a separate problem with what she's chosen to wear to eat it in. He keeps his eyes at table height. After a while, he notices she keeps sighing and asks what's wrong with her today. She's upset because he's popular now. All day at work, people had his face open on their phones, passing it around, and it made her jealous. He tells her not to be silly. It fades, and he has no interest in being an internet celebrity. Good, she says, because that job is dangerous, especially for a man who makes money off his image. They start wanting photographs of his arms, and his back, and everything else. And those are things only I get to see. Then she laughs, calls it a joke, and tells him to drink his drink. Watching him across the table, Juno thinks about how many people are going to want him now. She decides this has to be settled soon, before that number gets any bigger. Time is short, and something is going to have to be done about it. That evening, she knocks on his door while he's working through programming exercises. Can she work in here beside him? Will she be in the way? He says she won't be, and thinks that for once, his sister is behaving like an actual big sister. She can sit there as long as she likes. It won't affect him at all. She thanks him, says she's happy, and hands him a present. It's her salary for the day. $3,000 into his hand for no reason whatsoever. So, the kid stands there holding a day's pay that would have taken him a month to earn in his old life. He asks how she makes that kind of money at her age. Because she's not a qualified surgeon yet, she says, she only assists. He asks her to run that past him one more time. She assists. On operations. She was taken early on the strength of her results. Top of her year, and certain privileges come with being top of your year. Cardiac, a specialty with almost no specialists in it, which means demand is absurd and the number only climbs from here. His sister, who irons his shirts, has her hands inside people's chests on weekdays. He tells her she's genuinely amazing and he'd be happy to make that much one day. In her head, all of this is one long demonstration that she could keep him comfortably for the rest of his life. He adds that with money like that, their parents can stop working late. They already have, she says. They're going on a trip, which she's paying for. Cade asks how long a trip. A while, she says. And something crosses her face that he doesn't like at all, because a while means the two of them, alone in this house. The next scene is our boy gripping the bathroom sink at night, briefing himself. Don't look, don't think, don't speak. Then he walks out, sees her, and the entire program collapses inside a second. He asks why she's changed clothes again, given that each set of pajamas is measurably shorter than the last one. She wanted to be comfortable while she works, obviously. So, she works. On his bed. For hours. At some point, he realizes she's been looking at him for a long time. She realizes she's been caught. So, she announces that her shoulder hurts and asks whether that deserves a massage. Our boy, out of functioning excuses, gives her the massage. After that, she brings up the weekend. They'll have the house to themselves so they could go out and do something. He works out that in all this time, they've never once gone anywhere together, so he agrees to it. She says she'll think about it carefully. It's my first date with my brother. He hears the word date, decides it means two siblings going out, and lets it go past him. At 11, he tells her it's bedtime, and she says she'll sleep in her own room tonight. A miracle, straight up. They say goodnight and she goes, thinking she can't push any further than this yet. Cade lies back in the dark and admits to himself that he can't wait for the weekend. Then the phone rings, and it's Sloan Marr. He goes straight into it. She can't keep insisting like this, and if she wants a man, he will personally find her one. I hate men. Not just anyone gets to be her boyfriend, she says. I only want you. So? He asks the obvious question. If she hates men, why is she following one around? And she tells him. She grew up, watched. Money and a name did that, so there were always men circling her. She watched her mother go through a great many of them. She learned early what that kind of man wants, and she kept the lesson, and the hate came with it. He's different. She doesn't explain why and doesn't seem to be able to. Then she hands him the part she doesn't hand out. She worked every day from the time she was a child. Then the army took the rest of it. Nobody ever taught her how to take care of a person, so it isn't her fault that she doesn't know how. All I know is how to work, run a business, make money, and fight wars. Then she says it out loud. I want to learn. She doesn't know how yet, and she says so. It's the first thing she's ever said to him without a single card in her hand. She isn't finished either. Whatever he wants, she'll get him, and she means that at full scale. The group builds rockets, so if he wants space, she can arrange space. Cade tells her he isn't interested. I don't want the stars. He's going to sleep, and she should sleep too. He's hanging up now, and he hangs up. So, the woman pours out the only soft thing she owns and gets a dial tone for it. Lying in the dark, the kid does the arithmetic on her anyway. A childhood of work, no days off, then an army. Nobody comes out of that normal. He decides that explains most of her, and he feels sorry for her, which is a dangerous thing to start feeling about Sloan Marr. He falls asleep, and it's the same dream again. a girl with a fistful of his sleeve, refusing to let go of it. You can't look at anyone else. Not at anyone. He wakes up with the sentence still in the room. Since the sticker pack, he hasn't walked to school alone once. Juno drives him in and collects him every afternoon on the grounds that fame is a dangerous thing for a man to have. Cade gets to the gates and Zero Nova arrives late, which has never happened before. He asks why. She says she was thinking about kissing him out loud in a queue of 40 people and moves to do it. Cade gets a hand up and asks her to keep her voice down. That's a secret. She can't announce it to a courtyard. Suddenly, she's closer, and she takes hold of his finger and says it flat. Let's kiss. He tries the intimacy speech. Kissing means something. It isn't a school corridor thing. Fine, she says. Then we'll kiss at my house after school. Cade suggests they focus on class and talk about it later. Zero accepts that the way she accepts everything. Then her face does something he doesn't like. He notices it, and he feels it too, which is new. Privately, he also knows that if he starts, he doesn't stop, because his body doesn't work here the way it worked back home. At break, the corridor turns into weather. It's the emoji guy. Sign my bag. Emoji guy. Milo, helpful, as ever, shows him the video going round, the museum piece, the face that turns up once every 70,000 years. Cade would like the internet to stop. Suddenly, a hand closes on his backside. Zero has the girl's wrist bent before he's finished turning around. She does it neatly and without a word, in front of everybody, and the whole corridor learns something in about a second. Cade tells her to let the girl go. The girl walks off, holding her own wrist. The principal arrives and scatters the lot of them. Two things are true at that school now. The quiet one fights, and she fights over him. 10 minutes later, there are luxury cars outside the gates. A line of them, engines running, in a school zone. Milo is impressed at volume. Cade takes one look and suggests they eat somewhere else because he already knows exactly who that is. His phone rings, obviously. This guy asks whether she really has to follow him even to school. She tells him to come out, she's taking him to dinner. He says, no, he's eating with his classmates. She says she knew he'd say that, so she came prepared. Out she gets and orders dinner served. Staff move. Chairs come out of a van. A table goes up on the pavement with cloth and courses on it, in front of the gates of Kingsley Academy. Cade watches a banquet being built on a public road. He calls her in a genuine panic to say he'll eat with her. He'll eat with her. Stop. Zero asks what's going on. Cade produces an excuse and leaves her standing there with it. She doesn't get her face fixed fast enough. Sloane, from the car, sees precisely what's on it and smiles like a woman filing a document for later. In the car, he sets the rule. Nobody finds out about them. If anyone does, he never speaks to her again. It lands somewhere soft, and she doesn't answer it. She just tells her staff to put the entire banquet back in the cars. She waits for him on the corner afterwards in a hat, which is her idea of a disguise. He'll go and eat, he says, but obviously only if he picks the place. She agrees to that. So, our boy takes the richest woman in the country to the worst restaurant in Calder City. Cracked tiles, one fan, the menu on a board in marker pen. He tells her he loves it here, it's his favorite, and since she's a rich tyrant, she'll probably hate it. She hates all of it. Perfect, the protagonist thinks. Hate it here, hate me, go home. Instead, she takes out a card and tells the owner to close the place because nobody else is eating in a room she's in. Cade kills that on the spot. She can be as rich as she likes. If you do that, where do poor people eat? And if tonight is going to be about flaunting money, they leave right now. Sloane thinks, not for the first time, that he is a genuinely difficult man. He orders a big bowl of instant noodles with a fried egg on it. She reads the menu like a hostile document. Is anything this cheap even edible? The kid, a bit embarrassed, tells her he's eaten this his whole life. If it were poison, I'd be dead by now. The owner tells them to hurry up, they're holding the line. So Sloane starts issuing conditions instead. Gloves, fresh ingredients, nothing touched by a bare hand. The owner gets ready to throw them both out, sees the cash, and changes profession. Halfway through, she takes his jaw. Stop looking at her. Look at me. She's jealous of a woman with a walk. Our boy decides this is getting mean and tells her the whole truth while she's mid-negotiation. He doesn't have a Cinderella complex, and being kept or pampered or paid for is the last thing he wants. If that's what she's shopping for, she can leave. The food arrives, and so does the owner, dressed like she's about to open somebody's chest. Mask, hat, apron, the entire outfit. Sloane tastes it and concedes it's edible. I've had worse in the army. Then, with no transition whatsoever, who taught you to kiss like that? He dodges. Wrong time, and anyway he learned it off television. She lets it go, and then tells him what happens if she ever finds out there's another woman. If there is, I'll do something about it. said in the same voice she used to order the gloves. Sometime later, Milo has a lipstick problem. He wants to know whether a shade suits his sister. Cade does not care and says so, and they go to Poppy Park's room to find out. She's drawing, and she takes one look at the two of them and panics, which is how they know. She's drawn Cade, surrounded by women, rows and rows of women. Her friends made her do it, she swears in tears, and anyway she can't read properly yet. So, Cade opens her PC and finds 500 gigabytes of study material that says otherwise. He confiscates all of it. She's his best friend's sister, so she gets a lesson instead of a lecture, and one wish if she behaves. Then Juno calls to ask what he's doing. He's walking home from Milo's, so she comes to collect him because the streets are not safe for him. Behind her in the office, a colleague asks who she's talking to. Juno leaves the question standing there and walks off. Later, a workmate pitches a bar this weekend. Good drinks, better-looking men. She declines. She's going out on Saturday with a very handsome man. Her friend wants a name. She'll give one once she has results. Nobody in that office knows she has a brother, and she has never once corrected them. The friend presses something small into her hand and tells her to take precautions. Juno looks at it and does not disagree with any part of that. Across the room, one man has heard the whole exchange. Theo Brandt, the one Cade already promised a police report. He now knows where they're shopping on Saturday, and he does not have the face of a man who intends to stay home with the information. She gets home that evening, and there's shouting coming out of his room. He's live, and he's furious. Chat has worked out that the streamer and the museum piece are the same face. He signed up to play games. Now people in his own matches recognize him and stand there mid-fight asking him to take the mask off. He can't finish a round in peace. 3,000 people are in there asking about his face. Juno reaches past his shoulder and kills the PC at the wall. Stop playing. Then she has his arm, and she isn't being funny about it. Stop streaming. They know his face. They'll find your name, then your street, then this house. Can't he stay home and let his sister take care of him? Underneath it is the real fear, and she says a version of it out loud. If he gets big enough, somebody takes him. There are a lot of them, and only one of her. He tells her it's temporary. It doesn't matter who knows his face. She's his family, and he isn't going to forget her. She hears all of it. None of it helps. At school the next day, he checks the account anyway. $38,000 from one night, after the platform took its cut, without him asking a single person for a donation. Cade sits with that number for a second. Then he reminds himself that the job is getting home, not getting rich. Changing after class, our boy clocks a phone over the top of the lockers. It's Guilfoy, photographing him from 2 rows over. Milo picks that exact moment to announce that Cade's abs are coming along nicely. Gil fumbles the phone. Caught. He denies everything, so the protagonist takes his shirt the rest of the way off and hands the phone back. Take as many as you want. Handing the phone back is strategy, not temper. If people learn he's sensitive about being photographed, it gets worse forever, so the only play is to be bored by it. So, he follows Gil out onto the street to finish the conversation properly. Gil is walking with his eyes down, thinking he'll just be more careful next time. Suddenly, an arm comes out of an alley and takes him. Cade rounds the corner and stops. 2 of them in suits, and he knows those suits. One of them is telling Gil to say nothing happened and disappear. So there are people at his school reporting to Sloan Marr on who points a camera at him. The protagonist walks away, calls her, and asks what she's planning to do with the kid. So, you know, it was me. It isn't a denial, and being caught doesn't seem to interest her in the slightest. He tells her one of her men lifted a school kid 10 feet in front of him. Sloan isn't bothered by that. He wanted to provoke you, so he can face the consequences of that. Cade says the boy is 17. Sloan says that isn't an answer. Cade tells her to leave this kind of thing alone. He handles his own problems, and at his own school, he especially handles them himself. I don't care what you think I should do. She'll do it her way. At his school, if that's where it has to be done. There's nothing at the other end of that argument, so he hangs up and then spends the night hoping the guy turns up alive tomorrow. He does turn up. Gil Foy is at his desk in the morning, extremely polite, flinching at a chair leg. Nobody says the word beaten, and nobody has to. Everyone in that row works it out anyway. At lunch, Zero decides he looks tired and starts massaging his temples. He did that for her at the park, and it helped, so she's returning it. Then she hugs him. Hugging makes me happy. Kissing makes me happy. Cade says he wants to make her happy too, and hugs her back. Then he finally runs the calculation he's been walking around for weeks. He likes his sister. He likes being near Sloan more than he'll admit. But with Juno, it's family, and family is a wall he is not taking down. With Sloan, one step in any direction is a step into money with blood underneath it. Zero is the only one of the three he can sit beside and be calm. That's the whole ranking, and it's the first time he's let himself see it laid out. That's when she kisses his neck, asks for a proper one, and starts on the buttons of her shirt. He gets her hands and asks what she's been watching. Nothing, she says, which he does not buy for 1 second. So he explains that this is a couples thing, people who are actually together, who understand what love is. Zero asked him a question. What is love? He gives the worst answer in the history of that question, hears himself do it, and tries again. It's when you're relaxed around somebody. Is that how she feels with him? Because if they ever get there, he wants it to be that and not the other thing. She doesn't say one word the whole way back to class. Milo calls that night to warn him that Zero is using him. Cade says they're friends and closes the subject. Privately, he arrives somewhere worse. If Sloane has eyes inside that school, those eyes have seen Zero too. So he needs to stand further away from her, for her sake, clearly not his. He's midstream when his sister walks into frame. She takes the microphone and informs the entire channel. My baby is going to sleep now. See you on the next one. Cade points out that he is, basically, in the middle of a match. She tells him he gets too focused. It's bedtime, and he can lie on her lap and she'll do his shoulders. So he goes. Lying there, he decides his sister is the nicest person in this house. She talks while she works. He should stream less. A lot of those viewers want things. And whatever they ask him for, he gives them nothing. Never give anyone your measurements. He asks, what measurements? Juno laughs at him for not knowing what the world is like and offers to teach him the 4. He's worked out 3 of them and is still guessing the 4th when she lifts his shirt. She measures his chest. She writes the number down, notes that the exercise is showing, runs a hand flat across his stomach, and says she's a little envious, in the same calm voice she uses at work. You feel feverish. Then she takes hold of the waistband of his shorts. Suddenly, Cade is asking her, straight up, what she thinks she's doing. Juno stops. Not because he asked, because she hears herself 1 second too late doing it with a witness in the room. She takes the hand back and apologizes to nobody in particular. He decides she's gone shy and finds it kind of cute. He is wrong about which one of them just got frightened. The next morning, over coffee, she reminds him that today is their date. He asks whether she knows what that word means. She doesn't answer. She goes upstairs, and half an hour later she comes back down. How do I look? Cade fails the brother test completely. What he's thinking is that she looks better than anything on the internet, which is not a thought. A brother files. What comes out of his mouth is that she looks beautiful and he'll go and change. Then the two of them walk the mall like people on an actual date. 40 feet back, under a hat, is the man from his own front gate. Theo Brandt has found them. And Juno, watching him in the reflection of a shop window, does not look even slightly surprised. Cade says he'll go and have a word with the hat. Juno stops him with a hand on his sleeve. Don't. He works in my lab. If her brother makes a scene in a shopping center, it follows her back into a building she has to walk into on Monday. She could lose the job. She'd rather handle it sideways, she says. And she asks him for a favor. Pretend to be my boyfriend until he gives up. Cade thinks about it for about as long as it takes to notice she asks nicely. If it gets the man off her, he'll do it. Juno thanks him in a small voice and goes slightly pink, and that is the last honest reaction anybody gets out of her all afternoon. So they hit the claw machine, because she's heard men love stuffed animals. She wins him too and gets them both an ice cream. She buys cat ear headbands and puts one on him in public, and 40 feet back, the hat does not move. Cade checks the reflection again and suggests they hold hands, since the act clearly isn't selling. Juno takes his hand, like it's a job. An hour of that, and the man is still there. Cade asks whether the guy really still doesn't believe her. Not even slightly, she says. Suddenly, she has his sleeve. He's coming. And she kisses him, in the middle of the concourse, in front of about 200 people. Theo Brandt stops dead in the walkway. Cade's brain goes offline and comes back on emergency power. Juno, meanwhile, is quietly giving the stalker full marks. He did exactly what she needed, at exactly the second she needed it, which is the correct amount of praise to give her prop. Because she gave their location away herself. On Friday, in an office, to a man she knew would follow it. Every part of today has been hers. The hat, the panic, the favor, the kiss. She has been 4 moves ahead since the coffee. Afterwards, she apologizes for kissing him without asking. Did it frighten him? She asks. He says it's fine and asks where the guy went. Ran off, apparently. She apologizes again. The situation was stressful. She couldn't control herself, which costs her nothing, obviously, since she wrote the situation. She points out that they aren't related by blood. Whatever they are on paper, there's no biology in it, so one kiss between 2 people who get on this well isn't a big deal. You're not going to tell me you didn't enjoy it. Cade takes that shot standing up. As a man, he enjoyed it to some extent, and he knows precisely what happens if he says so out loud. One admission, and this stops being a thing anybody can walk back. It goes through the parents. It takes the house with it. So he calls the kiss casual. We're family. We keep things appropriate. Juno reads the dodge in about a second. He didn't say no, he said appropriate. Then she gets the look. The one that means a plan just changed gear. Today, we're not related. Today, we're a couple, all day. The stalker might still be out there, so the act runs until dark. Two girls in the corner have been watching the handsome one and the dressed-up one. They come over, asking for money. Juno's hand goes into her pocket and closes on a knife, and behind her face, she is picking an organ. One she could open and probably still leave the girl alive. Probably. Then she remembers who is standing next to her, throws a fistful of cash at them instead, and tells them to take it and go. The girls tell her to be careful, or we rearrange your boyfriend's face. That's not happening. Cade steps past her. The first one swings, he isn't there, and his fist goes into her stomach hard enough to send her down the tiles on her back. He asks the other one whether she wants some. They run. He turns round and tells his sister, I'll always protect you. Juno does not have a face ready for that. The boy she remembers hid behind her. She kept watch over him for years, straight through the stretch where he stopped speaking to her, and now he's standing in front of her announcing the order has flipped. Back home, he goes for a shower, and she goes for his PC. Something is wrong with her brother, and she intends to find out what. What she finds is the novel, chapters and chapters of it. Their world turned exactly inside out. Women at home, men running everything. She reads the whole thing with the water still going. He comes back to his room, and she's gone. Suddenly, she's in the doorway with a glass of milk. She asks what he's writing. Won't you tell your sister? Cade downplays it. He just writes, it's nothing serious, and decides she doesn't need the rest of it yet. Juno lets that sit. Then she asks whether he's writing something he doesn't want her to read, because that can't happen. He's been strange for weeks. The Muay Thai, the fists at the mall. You're not the Cade I knew. And she's looking at him, the way she looks at an x-ray. That's the crack, and this guy walks straight into it. He asks how he's changed, exactly. Then, carefully, did she know him before? Before the marriage, before the house, before any of it. She says yes, of course she did. We knew each other as children. Cade keeps his face still while his stomach does something else. Childhood. There is no childhood in the memories he was handed, at least not one with her in it. She's already asking how he can possibly not remember. And she's asking it like the answer matters more than her job and her house and everything in them. So, he plays dumb, and he plays it well. It was a long time ago, he says. Then, he gives her something better than an excuse, a dream. Almost every night, a little girl fighting other children. Her eyes are the frightening part. He's had it so long that it's the reason he started training at all, because he wanted to be strong enough to stop needing protection. And the only reason he squared up at that mall, he tells her, is that she was standing next to him. He puts a hand on her shoulder while he says it. Every word of it is chosen. Juno goes pink and tells him, of course she wouldn't have let anything happen. Privately, the protagonist files his finding. The way to steer his sister is to look like he needs her. Privately, Juno files a worse one. She's wondering whether she frightened him so badly back then that his head threw the entire year away. And she decides, it doesn't matter. He forgot, and that is fine, because it means she gets to build it again from nothing, her way, with nobody around who remembers the first version. So, she informs him that he scared her today, and there is a punishment for that. The punishment is tickling. They wreck each other for a few minutes and end up flat out on the bed, breathless, laughing, with strict instructions never to do that again. Suddenly, she's on top of him, and she isn't laughing anymore. Cade points out that nobody is following them now, so they can stop pretending. The day isn't over, Juno says. They agreed on all day. And they've already kissed once, so a second one changes nothing. Said in the same voice she uses to read a chart. Downstairs, the front door goes. Their parents are home a day early. What Juno says on hearing her mother's voice does not go in a recap. She's off him, and standing before Cade has finished panicking, announcing she was just leaving anyway. He stops her, because her face is still up around danger red. She tells him to say she has a fever and went to lie down, which is at least half true. Cade sits there after she's gone. The memories he was handed came with the shape of a childhood, and none of the detail. His mother went out for cigarettes when he was small and never came back. His father turned that into work. Every hour there was, for years, until the man was more of a timetable than a parent. So the boy in this body grew up in a daycare on the far side of Calder. All day, every day, until the lights went off. And there was one girl in that room nobody would talk to. He was 5 when he walked over and introduced himself. Name, age, and a question about why she was always sitting on her own. She looked straight through him and didn't say a word. That memory he has. What he does not have, anywhere in it, is her face. 2 doors away, Juno is doing a victory lap on the end of her bed. It worked. He didn't refuse her once, not all day. Maybe he likes her too. And in his own room, our boy is doing arithmetic that would horrify his father. She's nice to him. Genuinely nice. She cooks, she cleans, she earns more than both parents put together. She looks after him like it's a profession. And his heart does something stupid every time she comes down those stairs. He isn't going to pretend otherwise inside his own head. Then the second half of the thought arrives. What Errol Mercer would say? Whether any version of this ends well. And, quietly, whether it could be worked in his favor. That last one is the first genuinely dangerous thought he's had in this house. At dinner, Delia Reyes asks whether Juno looked after her brother while they were away. The two of them exchange exactly one look across the table. Juno says of course she did, and adds that he took care of her too, which is a sentence with a basement under it. Cade announces he's finished and he's going to a friend's. Don't wait up. He's out the door before anybody can offer him a lift. He's meant to be meeting Zero at her house. Zero is standing in the middle of the city. She missed him, so she came halfway to get more time out of the evening. She's also in shorts that would have started an argument 2 weeks ago. Cade, the man who once made her put tights on, looks at that, decides he is not fighting that battle twice, and asks what she's doing out here. He pats her head and takes her home. Back at the Nova house, Ambrose takes his coat like nothing has ever gone wrong here. Cade has been inside this place 10 times, and the scale still gets him. Zero tells him the house is his tonight. He picks what they do. She'd wanted to show him the new weapons in the armory, except a friend told her men don't like weapons, so she takes him to the pool instead. It is Olympic-sized, indoors. Ambrose has swimsuits ready, obviously. Our boy goes to change and immediately hits a cultural problem. Back home, he wore a Speedo. Here, a man showing that much skin is roughly what a naked woman would be back there, and Zero would need medical attention. So he finds something long, modest, and socially survivable. A separate piece falls out of the middle of it. He looks at it, decides its packaging, and bends it. Then he challenges her to a race. One length, first to touch, and the winner gets to ask the loser for anything. You look pretty, Zero says, which he returns, and they're on 3. This guy swims like he was built for it. Zero goes in and sinks. Straight down, no arms, like dropped luggage. He gets her out coughing and asks the obvious question. Why challenge a man to a race when you can't swim? She'd watched people do it. It looked easy. He flicks her forehead for it. Suddenly, a maid behind them says, very carefully, Sir, your clothes. Cade looks down. The swimsuit has gone completely, unarguably see-through, and has apparently been that way since the first length. Every maid in the room turns round at once and starts apologizing in chorus. It's a feature, they explain. The fabric is designed to do that. Wet is the point, and the little piece he found inside it and threw away as packaging was the part that stops exactly this from happening. He changes. This upside-down world is going to finish him one accessory at a time. Zero has 11 more rooms she wants to show him, and the kid slows her down. Why the rush? He asks. I'm afraid you'll leave before you're happy. That is the entire reason. Suddenly, she asks the question he's been dodging since the corridor. Did I do something? They haven't had lunch together in days. He's been standing further away. She's spent the week going through it looking for the part that was her fault. He uses her full name when he answers her, which he never does. So he lies to her, badly, on purpose. It isn't her. He's got problems he can't talk about. The truth is that Sloan Marr has people inside Kingsley Academy reporting on who points a camera at him. And Zero Nova is a general's granddaughter. If those two households ever meet over him, somebody gets taken apart for sport. He's already watched a boy get pulled into an alley over a photograph. He isn't feeding her into that. Zero asks what's going on and says they'll solve it together. He tells her he can't. These are his. He isn't dragging her into them. Then she starts crying, which he has never seen. It comes out flat and factual, like everything else she says. She doesn't know how to help, but she isn't leaving him behind, and could he please not shut her out? Cade says, the worst true thing in the room. I can't keep stringing you along. She apologizes, says she'll go to her room first, and goes. He's still sitting there when Ambrose arrives with a tray he clearly didn't need to bring. The butler apologizes for overhearing and offers that his lady can be spoiled. Cade tells him it isn't her fault. It's him, for personal reasons, and he made it worse by never once thinking about how she'd take it. Ambrose doesn't accept that either. He puts the tray down. Every day she comes home, she talks about school, he says. What she means is that she talks about Cade. There is nothing else in the report. No other names and no other days in it. So if he stands further back, she will feel it, however oblivious she looks, because there's nothing else in her week to cover the hole. The butler asks something that isn't small talk. Was she ever threatened at that school? Cade repeats what she told him once. Her friends only ever asked her for money. They weren't asking, sir. She was rich, and she didn't know how to make a friend. So the arrangement was that she paid and they tolerated her. Then the price went up. Soon, it stopped being about money at all. They took it off her daily, and they beat her daily, and she went along with both because she thought that was simply the fee. One evening, she came home properly beaten. Her mother wanted to know how a daughter of that house had allowed it to happen. So, Mayor Corinne Nova went down to the school. What she did there is still discussed in Calder. The boy's family were put on their knees in front of everybody and made to lick the floor and then her boots and then thank her for the lesson. And after that, nobody in that building was ever going to be Zero Nova's friend again. Ambrose delivers the last part like a man reading out a diagnosis. She stopped being bullied. She started being alone, completely, for years. And somebody finally turned up who talks to her, and that somebody is standing in this hallway deciding to stop. Then he apologizes for saying too much and picks the tray back up. The protagonist finds her in the maid's quarters, by a window, on her own. He gets one word out. She goes first. When she was small, she liked looking at the sky because her parents were always somewhere else. So she'd watch the planes come in, pick one, and decide they were on it. He tells her what he should have told her an hour ago. She isn't alone, and he isn't leaving. Then Zero tells him she already knows. She knows he's in some kind of danger. She isn't stupid. She just doesn't talk. And she has already decided about it. You're my best friend. I don't care if I get arrested. She'll defend him. She says it the way she says the weather, and that's the frightening part, because she means the arrested bit literally. Cade puts a hand on her arm and tells her that loyalty is not the tool for this particular job. So they negotiate. At school, distance. Real distance, no lunches, and no walking out of the gates together, and he's standing back from Milo too, because anybody near him is standing in somebody's photograph. Zero doesn't like one word of it, so he gives her the other half. He'll come to this house, often, most days if she wants, so she isn't sitting in it on her own. If I called you every day, would you get tired of me? Cade tells her that's what friends do. And anyway, she still owes him the game room, plus about 9 other rooms in a house this size. Something in her face comes back on. Then, she's got both arms round him, thanking him, telling him everything changed for the better the day he turned up. She holds onto his arm and says he's the person she cares about most in the world. Cade, who now knows exactly what this family does to anyone who hurts her, decides not to think about that tonight. Meanwhile, somewhere else entirely, a city is burning. Broken buildings, fire in the street, and a body on the ground bleeding out of the head. Stabbed, opened, finished. It's Sloane Marr, and she has been dead for some time. Then she wakes up. She lies there and lets the ceiling be a ceiling. Delphine Ivers comes in and asks whether she's awake. It's 11. She's been sleeping half the day all week, and the secretary would like to book a doctor about it. Sloane doesn't want a doctor. She wants to know how the Black Sun research is going. No progress, Ms. Ivers says. None at all, from anyone. Right. Then I'll go to work. Sloane Marr is standing in front of a bathroom mirror thinking about a 19-year-old. Not the company or the research. She wonders what the boy's doing. And she decides, the way she decides everything, that she wants him near her for life. Meanwhile, that boy is at the Nova house getting kissed. Zero leans in with no build-up at all, and Cade gets a hand up and slows her down. Not in a house where a maid walks past every 90 seconds, he says. She says she only felt like being honest. Suddenly, his phone rings, and his face changes at the name. Sloane wants to know where he is. A friend's house, he says. She invites him over, and he turns it down flat, saying he's busy and not in the mood. So she takes the other route. She'll visit his parents instead, because she has a gift for them. She threatens his father the way other people suggest a restaurant. Cade tells her she is going too far. Sloane repeats the invitation and says she'll be waiting at her door. Behind him, Ambrose opens the mansion door. There are a lot of people outside, he announces, asking for the young sir. They say they're here to take him home. Cade Mercer walks out onto marble steps that belong to somebody else's family. Behind him, the butler holds the door open like a weapon. In front of him, 30 bodyguards in matching black fill the driveway of the Nova mansion, and at the front of them, not remotely out of breath, stands Sloane Marr. Zero comes out behind him and tells him not to worry. She'll protect him. The protagonist runs the numbers and hates the answer. Zero can fight. Everyone at Kingsley Academy knows the girl trains. But Sloane did years of it in uniform, against people who were trying. Put those two in a driveway and one of them leaves in pieces. So he tries to defuse it. He tells them both to stop. Sloane can say whatever she came to say. He turns to Zero and says goodbye. He has to go. Zero says no. This woman doesn't seem friendly and she isn't letting him leave with her. Cade looks at Ambrose like a man who ought to be able to fix this. Ambrose goes first instead. How dare you block this gate and drag off my lady's friend? Sloane does not look at him once. She has been standing very still, and she is out of patience. Then Zero Nova steps around the protagonist and plants herself between him and the driveway. She is the smallest person on this property. He's not your man. He's not your employee. Nobody here puts him in a car. Sloane's answer is 4 words. He's my man. Move. Then she tells Cade to get in the car, and she adds one more word for him. Now. The kid is standing there thinking, since when? That is the part he's stuck on. Not the 30 bodyguards. Zero throws the punch. It's a good punch, honestly, because the girl trains and everyone at Kingsley knows she trains. Cade gets one word out. Don't. And it's already in the air. Sloane blocks it without moving her feet. Obviously. Zero's face does something new right there. The face of somebody finding out, mid-punch, how big the gap is. Then Sloane's leg comes up out of a pencil skirt. A head kick misses Zero's jaw by about an inch, and every phone on that street is already recording. Zero gets under it and starts apologizing instead. Please, just let him stay. Sloane, still not breathing hard, tells her men to take the girl away. Guards take Zero by both arms, and she is still swinging. Cade shouts at her to stop resisting, because he has done the math, and she loses this one badly. So, he walks toward the car with his hands half up, like a man surrendering to a parking ticket. That is when a taxi pulls up at the curb. Then, Juno Reyes gets out of it in surgical scrubs, hospital badge still clipped on, phone in her hand. She looks at the bodyguards. She looks at the girl being held. She is not surprised by any of it, and somehow, that is the worst part of the whole driveway. She says his name once, very quietly. Which one of them are you leaving with? This time, nobody freezes it. Cade doesn't answer her, because there is no answer that ends with Zero's arms still in their sockets. He gets in Sloane's car, and the door shuts. Through the glass, he watches the guards let go. And he watches his sister stand in the street in hospital scrubs, not moving, taking it all in like a slide under a microscope. Nobody wins that driveway. 2 of them just start counting. The car pulls out, and the protagonist tears into her. Wonderful work. A fistfight outside his friend's house, in front of 30 witnesses and every camera on the street. Sloane says, the girl made a move on him first. He points out that she is the one who drove over and started it. He asks how a temper like that ever got made president of anything. Underhanded methods, maybe, he suggests. He hands her tomorrow's headline out loud. Kestrel Group president beats up schoolgirl. Sloane cuts him off right there. If he didn't spend all his time with other girls, she says, she wouldn't be this angry. It's your fault. I lose my mind when it comes to you. Cade tells her to stop acting crazy. He is not one of the men she's used to. He doesn't want protecting or following or 30 people in suits deciding where he stands. And Sloane says the sentence that ends the argument. I've never had a man before. He asks her to say that again. She makes a face like, yeah, and what about it? Cade sits in a moving car doing an inventory of everything he assumed about this woman. The company. The suits. The queue he pictured going around the building. None of it survives. There was never anybody, not once. The more he learns about her, the less he understands her. Back at her house, he tries to keep a room's width between them. She treats that as a game. She asks about the girl and her family. Just friends, he says. And would she please stop threatening everybody near him? She asks why he's threatening her and says it from about 4 inches away. So, Cade brings up his parents and asks what exactly the gift was. I was going to propose. Same flat voice, no pause. Is proposing a threat now? Marriage. The word goes off like a dropped tray. And while he's still standing in it, Sloane asks whether he doesn't think she deserves him. If she had wanted to threaten him, she says, she'd have gone after his relatives weeks ago and had him in her bed by now, which is, of course, meant as reassurance. He tells her this is impossible. There are plenty of good guys out there, and he doesn't like strong women, which she needs to understand going in. Sloane says life is short, and she intends to take everything she wants out of it. Then she pulls him into a hug and gets her mouth next to his ear. She's been studying the black sun for a very long time, she whispers. Aren't you interested? She finishes the sentence with her teeth, lightly, on his ear. Cade says he doesn't care about her research. She can study that thing until it turns green. He backs off fast, and his elbow catches a porcelain plate on a stand. Sloane looks at the pieces and mentions, mildly, that she had a certain admiration for that plate. He asks how much it cost. 2. 2 million, he repeats, and she corrects him without changing her tone. 200 million. Then she walks toward him through the wreckage. Pay up, Cade says. No object on Earth is worth that. Sloane agrees it's a difficult number, so she offers the alternative. If he can't pay, he becomes her husband. And, being a responsible person, she halves it. 100 million, 10 million in the first month, or he negotiates the rest with his body. The protagonist stands there in the broken porcelain, and the arithmetic goes somewhere it shouldn't. 100 million, 10 a month. Impossible. And, quietly, the thought that the body clause is not the worst offer he's had this year. Suddenly, the lady of the black sun is standing in front of him. She flicks him once on the forehead. Are you sure? She's gone, and he's blinking at an empty room. Sloane, who saw none of that, tells him that's exactly why she likes him. He's brave. Cade recovers with something about a man born under the sky, having no business being depressed. On the way out, he decides there is going to be another way. Night falls, and he gets home to find Juno waiting outside. She smiles and says she was just waiting for him. He tells her she doesn't need to stand in the street. Then she spots what's in his hand. An old antique, he says. A friend gave it to him, nothing special. She offers to buy him better ones if he's getting into them. So he asks, as lightly as he can manage, how much money she has saved. 3 or 4 million, she thinks. Then, before he can build to anything, she asks whether he wants access to her account. He can have all of it. She turns to go and get it. Cade catches her wrist and says, relax. He was only worried about her spending. Juno hears, my brother cares about my finances, and goes up the stairs glowing. Upstairs, our guy does the maths. 10 million, 1 month, streaming. So, he messages Quinn Sable, he needs to blow up, what's the plan, and goes live. The Voltstream chat arrives instantly. Suddenly, somebody offers 10 super yachts for the mast to come off, and he sits there genuinely tempted, because 10 yachts is 10 yachts. Quinn's message gets there first. Don't, not yet. When he's top of the platform, Quinn makes it official, on-record confirmation that the masked streamer really is the museum piece, the face that turns up once every 70,000 years. The internet already guessed, hearing it confirmed live is worth 100 times 10 yachts. So Cade tells the chat the mask stays on for now, but stay tuned. Then he asks what they want instead. One wants a shooter. One wants him to spread his legs on camera. One suggests singing, on the grounds that singing is easy. The protagonist is not shaking his backside for $100 million, so he goes with singing. He's no professional, but he could hold a tune in his old life, and as long as he doesn't sound like a lunatic, it'll do. He sings, and the platform comes apart. Yachts start landing in the corner of his screen. Somebody requests one specific song. He refuses, sings around it, and the gifts keep coming anyway. He announces that anyone who sends 3 yachts gets a wish granted, which is either good business or a serious mistake. $50,000, 1 session. Singing clearly beats gaming. He counts it twice, and it still isn't enough. 50 a month for a year does not touch 100 million. Then Sloane calls, and he assumes it's about the money. It isn't. She just wants to see him and asks for a photo. So, he sells her one. 5 million off the debt, he says. She talks him down to 1. He takes it, because $1 million off is $1 million off, and sends her a picture, wondering why she's like this. Next morning, he writes the plan out properly. Find a lender, avoid selling his body, sing live, sell photos to Sloane. He calls Quinn, who is delighted that the god of men has finally phoned her first. Obviously, she isn't going to suggest he act cute or strip. The singing streams are working, so they build on those. She points him at a shooter that just launched. New game, huge audience, and a sponsorship in it if he's early. Midstream, Juno walks into frame asking if he's hungry. The chat explodes, forbidden love, at 100 messages a second. She leans in closer to the camera, and Cade kills the broadcast. Good numbers, still not enough. Making money is clearly harder than he thought. Juno has seen the viewer count and teases him about it. Then she tells him to rest and offers him a massage. She has picked her outfit for this. Cade tries to say no, decides a massage is a massage, and lies down. She's sincere about it, which is the confusing part. She is actually trying to help. He spends it looking at the ceiling. She asks whether what she's wearing bothers him, and he says it doesn't. There's a reason I dress like this. He asks what the reason is. Behind her face, she is working out whether she can make him fall for her. That, she's concluded, is the only version of this that works. Out loud, she tells him she'll explain everything when the time comes. Then she mentions she has a new plan in motion. Once it comes off, the two of them will be much closer. Kate says, okay, sure, whatever she's talking about, and sleeps well for once. He wakes at 6 to a text from Sloan. Give up. You'll never pay it. Just bow to me every time and be my obedient man. At school, he's face down on his desk when Zero says good morning. Her backpack is enormous. He asks about it, and she starts unloading her family's treasures onto his desk. She doesn't know what any of it is worth. Her grandmother said it was valuable. Suddenly, she tries to hand him a diamond ring. Kate asks whether she took all this out of her house, and of course she did. He tells her it's dangerous. He isn't touching a piece of it, and every item goes back to Ambrose today. Zero looks genuinely hurt. I only wanted to help. So he thanks her properly and tells her the part that matters. He is not having her get in trouble over a problem that is his. Then he asks her for something she can actually give. Does she know anyone who appraises antiques? She says she'll find someone. Mordain Antiques is two women arguing about a vase when the protagonist walks in. One of them recognizes him on sight. The museum piece, the once in 70,000 years face, standing in her shop on a weekday. Cade says he's a friend of Zero Nova's and he needs something appraised. They move him straight to a private room because anything the Nova girl sends over gets one. Then the older woman turns the plate over. It's the Empress Corvain plate, a royal piece, and it last sold for $200 million. Sloan wasn't lying. They tell him the plate can be repaired. It will never be worth what it was. The women want to know how a student ended up holding it. A rich friend gave it to him, he says, already broken, nothing dramatic. The assistant slides a card across the table and suggests dinner to go through the details properly. Her interest is not in the plate. Cade takes the card. Obviously he does. Somebody has to sell the thing once it's fixed, and Cleo Mordain is the somebody. Then, somebody kicks the door in. She's been following them since the front counter. A woman in a long coat with 5 of her crew behind her. She doesn't spend a word on hello. She wants a share of the handsome boy. Cleo stands up and asks what she thinks she's doing. The woman ignores her completely and makes Cade an offer instead. Triple whatever the shop is paying him. Cleo slaps her across the face. Bex Mordain touches her cheek, tells her crew the dealer has guts, and says she's going to die about it. A fist goes into Cleo's stomach and puts her on her knees. The kid is sitting there with a cup of tea in his hand, thinking one thing very clearly. He still needs this woman alive to sell his antiques. So, when the next punch comes down, he catches the arm. Bex looks at her own wrist like it has stopped working. She wants to know how a boy is this strong. Then she tells him to step aside. Little man, this is women's business. He should probably put the tea down. He doesn't. 5 of them corner him between the counter and the cabinets. The first swing comes at his head, and he ducks it so smoothly it looks rehearsed. He puts the second one through a display case, glass across the whole floor. The third takes an elbow and folds. The fourth swings a chair at him, and he catches the leg of it mid-air, one hand out of nowhere, and drops the last one with it. 5 down. Not a drop spilled. Then everything goes black, because somebody got him from behind. He wakes up, tied and gagged in a warehouse full of women who clearly do this often. Bex gloats about having him. They're selling him onto a buyer called Madame Co, who has plans for him. The boy tries the student angle first. He's 19, he doesn't know any of these people, and gets told it's business and he's already been bought. So, she offers the side door. Be her man, and she might help him out of this. So he plays along. He likes strong women, he says. Problem is, he can't tell how strong she actually is while he's tied to a chair. Untie him and let him find out. I love breaking in a wild horse, she says, and has him cut loose. Meanwhile, across the city, Delphine Ivers reports that everything is in place for the final stage. Sloan Marr gives the signal. Back in the warehouse, our guy is counting exits and finding none. What he finds instead is a stack of metal bars in the corner. Bex tells him to relax. She's going to make him comfortable, and lunges. He dodges her and goes for the bars. The gang enjoys that, because courage in a boy is adorable. He gets a hand on one, turns, and hurls it at their leader. She slips it. She does not slip the follow-up, which lands on her elbow and takes the joint out sideways. Bex admits, loudly, that she underestimated him. She also warns him she can't ruin his face, since the face is the part that's for sale. Cade tells her to let him go, or regret it. She laughs and counts the people in the room. Over by the wall, Cleo is trying to tell them something. Anyone carrying a $200 million antique, she says through a swollen mouth, is connected to people they cannot afford. The gang decides she's a thief's girlfriend and stops listening. Which is, let's be real, the most expensive decision anyone makes tonight. Then, the room notices the noise behind it. They turn around, and Cade Mercer is going through them. A punch to the body, a hit to the chin, the next one already dropping. one after another, while the leader stands there with one working arm watching her whole crew get folded up. That is the first fight he has won alone in this world. He wins it, straight up, in the time it takes her to think of a plan. The doors open, and the temperature drops. Sloan Marr walks in furious. You had the audacity to tie up my man. Bex apologizes on the spot. It was a mistake, she didn't know. Sloan lays out the terms calmly. Bex stole from her, so Bex's crew belongs to her now. And Bex will be withdrawing from her family's inheritance dispute, leaving the whole Mordain estate to her useless brother. Bex says no. I'd rather die. She pulls a knife. A bodyguard has her on the ground before she takes a step, and there's a sound, and it's finished. Across the room, Cleo Mordain watches her sister die from a floor she can't get up off. Nobody here is a romantic comedy anymore. Kate accuses her outright. She engineered the entire evening to take the Mordain family. Sloan, irritated, says she did not plan any of this for him and suggests they start getting along better. He backs away with a stick in his hand. She breaks it with one punch, picks him up, and carries him out, with a smack on the backside for the walk. In the helicopter, he asks whether killing somebody is going to be a problem for her. Self-defense, she says. The woman drew first, in front of witnesses. Then, in the voice other people use for holiday plans, anyone who touches you gets the same. Cade gives her a thumbs up. Then she asks the question she's been building toward. Does he think she's as bad as the woman who tried to sell him? He hesitates too long. So, Sloan leans in, bites his ear, and asks whether he's running double standards. Cade is still assembling a sentence when she turns his face and kisses him. Back at her place, she takes her shoes off, and he asks what she's doing. She tells him not to move. He tells her to stop. She jumps on him anyway. She's saved him this many times now, she says. When exactly is he planning to pay her back? He points out that he already gave her a kiss. That's not enough. Then there's a hand on his neck. I want you. He tells her to stop, and she asks why his own hand is where it is, and informs him his body is more honest than his mouth. Time to date me officially, physically, and mentally. Cade cannot locate a single word. Meanwhile, at Mordain Antiques, the woman tells Zero Nova he's been taken by Kestrel Group. She's already reaching for her coat. Back on the sofa, the protagonist finally has an idea. Fine, he says. He'll consider dating her if she does one thing first. Sloan asks, what? Simple. Sit on my lap for 3 minutes, hands on my shoulders, and don't resist anything I do. She asks him to say that again. He says it again, and adds the hook. She's the one promising to satisfy him, and she can't manage 3 minutes? Sloan smiles at him in a way that has ended careers. She raises her hand like she's going to slap him, puts it on his shoulder instead, and sits. The kid genuinely did not expect that to work. 3 minutes is nothing, she tells him. And with her sitting there, he learns something he could have gone his whole life without knowing. It is nothing like it is with Zero. The weight is the same, and the feeling isn't. Her dominance never switches off, not even here. Then Delphine Ivers opens the door without knocking. Her glasses nearly leave her face. Sloan asks which part of knocking was unclear, and the secretary is on her knees apologizing before the sentence lands. Cade notes that they never did finish the 3 minutes. The urgent matter is at the front gate. The granddaughter of General Ada Nova is outside asking for him. Sloan goes very still and says it's time to deal with that girl once and for all. Ms. Ivers, who has spent her whole career on that name, advises caution. She is suspended on the spot. Go and think about what she said, Sloan tells her, because she isn't qualified to be anyone's secretary right now. And besides, we retired a long time ago. We are not soldiers anymore. Cade has never seen her angry before. He'd like to keep it that way. At the gate, Zero is holding up her phone, threatening to call the police if they don't let him go. He asks how she even knew. The women at the antique shop called her, she says. They told her he'd been kidnapped, so she came to get him back. That lands somewhere in his chest, and he has no time for it, because Sloan is already answering. If it weren't for Zero and her helpful recommendations, none of this happens. He never goes near that shop, that gang, or that warehouse. So the girl stays away from him. If he wants to learn to fight, he learns from her. Cade tells Zero to ignore her, and tells Sloan to stop looking at a schoolgirl like that. Neither of them is listening to him. Then Zero Nova reaches up and takes off her coat. She'll fight her, one-on-one, right here, without guards or company or a general behind either of them. Whoever wins gets him. Sloan's answer is one word. Deal. The coat hits the floor.